Hey guys, welcome to Hash Church. Hash Church episode 32. If you guys can believe it, we've been doing this for 32 weeks. I think it's incredible. I think it's amazing that we can gather like this on a Sunday morning, wherever we are in the world. I know a lot of you aren't in the morning right now. There's people that it's nighttime for. All the people in Europe, it's getting towards the evening, early afternoon, or later afternoon, early evening. And I just want to welcome all of you guys to Hash Church. I'm going to send out the links here soon. Get Johnny B and D420K, and there's the classic. We got to do that every time. I even had it almost all the way turned down. Well, I'm opening up Hash Church with a bowl today. I think it's a great way to start. We're going to blow smoke to the Vatican, as Mr. Robert Connell Clark has been doing for 20 plus years. So we got the Taurus with the drop down and the new titanium sapphire insert nail. So I've got my little sapphire in there, and I'm about to rip up a little of Horatio's 7-star. So yes, thank you, Horatio. Hopefully we'll see you in the room here really soon. And then maybe I'll resend the links if I don't see people show up here soon. Well, that's a good way to open up and start Hash Church, I think. Smoke a little bowl. Welcome, everyone. Hopefully these links work today. I know everyone's busy and trying to organize and get themselves ready to come in. So I'll just resend the link. So what I do every morning, actually, for you guys that don't know, it's a bit of a technical sort of feat. I have quite a few boxes open. I've got the Hash Church live link open with the chat. So hello to all of you guys in the chat. I want to say happy birthday to J-Dub, which I believe might be Jay Walmsley on my Facebook. So happy birthday to you, brother. And I hope it's a good brother. We're going to have some bowls for you today. And yeah, hopefully you just have an awesome day. Awesome, Dabinator and Swiss Perk. I got my Dabinator here, and I have 4 D nails, if you can imagine. I'm rocking 4 D nails today. I've got the Taurus set up with a D nail. I have the Fab Egg set up with a D nail. And then I have the Nectar Collector. Brand new little unit. Really digging on that. Quite fun. Did a little review on that yesterday that'll come out on the channel probably today, maybe tomorrow, depending on my time and how much time I have and if I can make it work. So no one's coming in. That's nice. I guess I better send these links out again. Find there's always technical difficulties when you try sending links to 25 people at once. Welcome, Johnny B. First into the chat. How's it going, dude?
Can you hear me? I was Marijuana March was awesome yesterday. We know we marched all around the world for that. It was great. And as always, morning, everybody in House Church. Morning, Todd.
Good morning. Yes.
Morning, Mark.
Good morning, Todd. Good morning. I was going to say the march looked a little sparse to me. You put up like 2 pictures, and it looked like there was about 25 people. Was that just a bad angle? Did we have more people than like 100, or?
It was a couple hundred.
Really?
It was probably a bad angle. I was.
Oh, John. Hey, John.
Trying to do what I could. So.
Hey, Johnny B.
But it was definitely.
Chrome today. Are you on Chrome today, John?
Pardon me?
Are you on Chrome, the browser Chrome? Are you using the browser Chrome? It's just, I'm sorry, dude. I need you to answer my question. Are you using the browser Chrome? Or are you on Firefox?
Yes.
Or are you on Safari?
Good answer. Good answer.
Are you using Chrome, John?
Yes.
Really? Because you're cutting out super bad, bro.
Morning, Tony.
What is going on, guys?
Just trying to figure out a little technical difficulties with Johnny's mic. It was. Were you hearing that like that, Todd, or was that just?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's a cool bookshelf there.
Oh, shells galore, Tony. Shells galore. You love it. Mostly weed books too, so.
It's cool though.
Right up your alley.
Welcome, Tony.
How you doing? I've got a couple people about to come by here, so I'm going to put it on mute so I get everybody in the building.
Very cool.
And then I'll be right back.
Rob today too, I understand, Mark, right?
I hope so. I want to make sure we don't have the same technical difficulties today. I really want everyone to be on Chrome and know 100% that they're on Chrome. I don't believe John was on Chrome. And I don't want to be getting mad at John. John's a good dude, and I'm sorry. I don't want to come off as an asshole in Hash Church. I'm stressed about a half an hour before Hash Church. Todd can attest. He's watched it. In fact, Todd's been in the room when I told him and Etienne and everyone else to please shut the fuck up just for fun. It's so stressful, dude. I want it to be flawless and work for everyone real nice, but it's a bit stressful when well, I'm not a professional, obviously.
Mark, the truth is though, the part of the beauty in what you're doing is that it's coming from the heart and it's not all fake and make-believe Hollywood bullshit and scripts and everybody's fucking worrying about their lines and trying to look cute, and it's just people honestly trying to share information. I don't think anybody's holding you to contempt because some people have bad internet connections or not the best camera or
no, you're right. You're right. It's just my own mental insanity where I'm just like, I want to set the bar high for everyone, and that's why everyone wants to hear what you and Tony and John and Darrin, everyone wants to hear what everyone has to say, and I suspect eventually I will try not to Hollywood it up, but really just get to a point where we at least have a quality stream for people to watch. Because there's 337 people watching Hash Church right now, which I'd like to welcome into the room. Wow.
Good morning, everybody. You know, we try to do that with the Culture High in the Union. We weren't really trying to, Hollywoodify the story, but we were trying to professionalize the message and make it clean and make it so that, people were not embarrassed when they watched our documentary, and they were proud to be part of the cannabis culture, and they were proud of the decisions that they made, and they were proud to learn the history that I think will emancipate us all from this silly slavery, in my opinion.
Right, no doubt. Well, I appreciate it. How are we doing, Johnny? Have we? Is that better? You're on the Chrome?
I was on the Chrome. I moved right beside my modem.
You look great now.
You know what, Johnny? If you could even plug into your modem. In fact, someone wrote me that, made a really great list on Hash Church. All the little things that we could all do in the room. One being mute your mic when you're not talking. That's probably the most important rule in the chat. Just mute your mic when you're not talking, and that gives everyone that quality sound when someone else is talking. And I think we're going to have an amazing Hash Church today. I don't really have anything planned per se. I did put an email out to Nick Bradley, who has been extremely helpful in offering help to Hash Church. Nick works down at Harborside, and he's a good dude. And what he wanted to do was help bring some more people that have the fairly inspirational stories, the heart-wrenching, but at the same time, like the very, you just can't deny these particular stories. There's always those prohibitionists that when they're talking about the medicinal aspect of cannabis, they'll always throw in that but I don't really think that they need to be, doing it every day, 24/7, smoking it like an addict. And this is the prohibitionist propaganda argument against what we're doing. And part of what you'll see when you watch us on Hash Church, this group of panelists, is that we smoke 24/7. We're normalizing the aspect of inhaling phytocannabinoids into our system to regulate and calm and euphorize. These are things that we do, and believe it or not, These are things that taught us most of what we know about this plant. There were no university courses. We weren't able to just go sign up for a course and be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to take this specialize in chemistry of cannabis, or specialize in the processing or the growing or the learning. There were no courses for any of this. What we had to do was, first it started out hiding in our parents' shed in the backyard, smoking joints. At least that's how it started for me. Smoking joints in the cold ass winter of north of Fargo, Manitoba, -40. But we're out there, me and my 5 friends, just chuffing reefers, feeling like basically how they wanted you to feel, which is that you're a pathetic drug addict and you need to be segregated from the rest of society, at least in the least positive space that we can find. So we end up in bathrooms, we end up at the back, behind the gym in school. We end up in all these places that, sure, the cocaine, well, no, I can't even say that. But back in the day, I felt more like, yeah, sure, segregate those motherfuckers. They're insane. They're just maniacs. They're just like, that guy just did a line and now he's selling his TV. It's not even his TV. He's selling someone else's TV at 3 in the fucking morning. He's banging on the door. Hey, man, you want to buy a TV? You got to check this TV out, man. So we don't really have that in the cannabis world. What we have is that we've been put in that category of a derogatory use, and I've heard Todd talk about it, responsible adult use. And I just want to use Hash Church to help normalize intellectual, articulate conversation and dialogue about this plant without anyone throwing in the but, he's about to take a bong rip. Well, of course I'm about to take a bong rip. My God. That's how I learned. And welcome, friend, on Tony's mic. Are you muted? You got to unmute that little bad boy. There you go. Now we hear you.
It's Matt from Stone 8. I made the logo.
Dude, killer.
Yeah. So I'm just popping in, enjoying Hash Church on this fine Sunday.
So which logo? The Dabs Over Denver?
Yeah, well, I'm working with Tony. I'm showing him all of the ones that I had made that I showed you the other day.
And you did the Hash Church logo.
Yeah.
Dude, how about that, guys? This is the Hash Church logo guy in effect. So what was your name, Matt or Matthew?
It's Matt. Matthew, whatever's easier.
Matt, right on, dude. Well, welcome, bro, and really thanks for being cool. I literally cannot believe, with the tiniest little bit of help, how good that logo got from where it was.
Yeah, and I mean, I appreciate the feedback on it too.
Well, you got the talent, you just need the feedback. Like, you can't just know everything about a person or how they're engaging. And I know how busy Tony is, and I just figured if I just gave you a little bit of a pointer, that you would produce something that would get his attention. And I suspect now that you're sitting at his house that you got his attention.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sick logo for those of you that haven't seen it. Maybe you can post it in the Hash Church group or on Tony's Facebook page. It's I don't even know if it's done, but even the one that you sent me, the last one, I know it had the metal nails.
Yeah, well, he liked that first one that you said that you don't think that he would have liked.
Come on.
The emblem.
Yep.
Yep. So that's kind of the hard part about designing stuff for people, is trying to figure out what they like as opposed to what you can do and what you can put down.
Yep. What I've learned is that what I like doesn't really matter. So what I try to do is I look at the perspective of my audience. Exactly. And I try to think, because often I do this with photography, and Todd might be able to confirm with his photographies, particularly with really powerful, beautiful macro images. When I nail one that I think, like this one or whatever, this is a Doc Atomic grown blueberry from DJ Short, Dan. Beautiful picture. It's actually got, if you look, there's two little things right on the side of the stalk. That's actually male pollen because it was a breeding project. And so sometimes when I think the best picture, like the ones I choose to print behind me are the best, they don't often, like more often than not, they're not received that way. I find that I'll take, against my own, once again, if you heard me earlier being all anal about the sound and wanting everything to be perfect for the listeners, the 431 people that are watching this live right now. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so every once in a while I'll post a picture that I'm like, I just don't like this picture. I don't think it pops. I don't think it connects with me. And then it'll be super well received.
Yeah.
And the thing is it's just like you're just one person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you're a unique type of person, like I've always been the kind of person in my life that I do things that less people are doing. I tend to be doing things, trying at least to pioneer things. And so when you're doing that, you don't have the best group perspective. You know, like I know what everyone will like.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like the same thing when it comes to like my T-shirt designs. Whenever I'm placing an order for them, there's one that I think like it's okay. I don't really like that one as much. I don't think it'll sell, so I won't place as big an order for a certain print. And then that ends up being the one that sells out first and is the one that's most in demand. So
Right.
it's kind of a weird balance, trying to figure that out.
Well, awesome. So, Todd, to switch the conversation a little bit, when is your event happening?
Dude, I can actually talk about it now. It's June 20th to 21st, and last Wednesday I had a phenomenal meeting with, of all people, the lieutenant of the LA Police Department and the fire marshal and the staff for the Coliseum, the final meeting. And I was thrilled. You know, there's so much change in the perception around cannabis now, and to be able to sit at a table with all these people that, you know, realistically, in some instances with the police department, have worked to arrest us for doing the simple, you know, task or act of smoking some cannabis. And now they're over here having conversations with me about compliance areas in the 15th largest coliseum in the world. It's unbelievable. So the event's going forward, and I was a little, you know, trepid to talk about it prior because I just didn't want it to, you know, it's taken me, how long have you known about this for? It's taken me so much work to get to this place.
That's what I'm saying.
It's going to be incredible, Mark. It's going to be incredible. I got my booth map now. We've got everything lining up. I think this is going to be the best event I've ever put together in my life, honestly.
Dude, at the Coliseum, bro.
Dude, I wish you would come down for this, man. I really do. You know, and we're going to announce the Cannabis World Championship. I'm going to put together this great event. Rob's going to be a judge, Rob Clark. We're going to have Kenny as a judge. Ben and Alan Dronkers, Arian Roscom and Franco, Etienne, Vernon Phillips, my friend that makes hash. It's going to be amazing. And no, probably what I'm doing is I was so tired of seeing like the old, you know, High Times Cannabis Cups where it wasn't really a representative of what was best. It was, you know, who spent the most on marketing or whatever. And I just never liked that. And I always admired the way that High Life did their cannabis events where they would just take the samples, number them, send them to the judges, and they would judge them blindly, not knowing whose the samples were or any of the politics of it. And I love that. And so that's what I'm going to do. We're going to have the Cannabis World Championship, and we're going to have a blind judging panel and hopefully really, you know, see some really quality stuff. You know, there's so much innovation that's happening these days, and I'm really excited to try to highlight it.
That's awesome, dude. I'm definitely going to try and figure out a way to get someone down there to represent and have Fresh Headies have a booth down there.
Come drive down and be a judge.
Dude, haven't you seen this, Todd?
Wow. How did I miss that already? Is that on Instagram?
No, maybe I haven't posted it.
Would probably be why I haven't seen it yet, bro. I'll repost it. That looks great. I can't wait to come on your Heady adventures, bro. I'm fucking totally down for this. Actually, think about it. I've already been on your Heady adventures. I get the guide of Mark himself, so.
Dude, that's right. We've already been on our own Heady adventures.
True story. I think it's great. You know, I went to the Secret Sesh again last night, and it's fantastic what they're trying to do here, Mark. You know, it's a real effort to bring together culture. And at this point, it's almost like a hash farmer's market. but it's really incredible. I smoked some of the best, literally the best ice melt hash I've ever had in my life last night. And the guy was like, 4 different people there told me they watched your hash church. 4 different people. And one of them was the guy that made that hash, which I was just blown away with. But,
well, awesome. Give him a shout out. You know he's watching right now.
You know, it's fucked up. He got me so high I can't remember his name. His shit was that good, though. I gotta say, I gotta give props, man. It was just incredible. You know, these people come together with a tight list. They give away free food, free water, and, you know, free samples. Everybody's dabbing people out. You can pick up grams of stuff at wholesale prices. So instead of going into the pot clubs and getting raped, you know, because truthfully, since legalization, the only people that have really made out are the people that own pot clubs, because the race to quality has gone down to the bottom, because now people that grow cannabis in California, they're getting a half, a third, or barely even a quarter of what they used to get for their efforts. So now people are not growing organic. They're not worrying about chemicals. They're just worrying about market salability and getting rid of it in a really hard market. And then my other gripe is that end users here in California are paying more than they paid. Back in the 90s, an eighth was $50. You know, now an eighth is 60, 70. You know, and it's ridiculous. And it's this middleman that's just getting fat. And I actually despise it a little bit, because you'd think with regulation that it would actually make it a little cheaper for the end user. It's not.
It's one of the things I didn't really like about BHO, to be honest, Todd, because it's that BHO funds and fuels exactly that whole thing you just spoke about. People are growing shittier weed. They're unable to sell it, but they can blast it. And that's why people blast 10, 20, 50-pound packs. They blast them.
Oh, now listen, dude, on all for reals, I think that using solvent technology has changed the face of farming for a lot of these people. And truly the biggest, if I dare say the word, hypocrites I've seen is Northern California, because they were the all, you know, organic munchies, but they have the worst cases of mold in the whole state. I mean, Humboldt, Mendo are great places to hide and grow pot, but they're really not great places geographically to grow pot. You got moisture problems, short seasons, mega mold issues. And what are they doing with all that stuff now? They're blasting it. And you know, and I though have to say, I mean, I feel that the BHO thing is getting a really bad rap, and the reason is because, you know, we do perfume extractions, coffee decaffeination using the same technology regularly. Nobody's blowing up decaffeinating coffee because it's a regulated situation. Yeah. We're in a situation where illegality, there's 31 deaths from people trying to make BHO in California alone last 12 months. That's a statistic. And the thing is that's not the fault of the propane or it's really a fault of the people not having a regulated system to be able to get the stuff at a reasonable price, so they make it themselves. I mean, if you go back to the 90s, we were getting accused of burning down houses with our grow rooms. And that was the big story, because grow rooms weren't safe. Well, now it's grow rooms we'll deal with, but it's these jerks with their BHO that's not safe. When truthfully, what's not safe is prohibition. That's what's not safe. And that hit article that just came out, your one line in it was awesome. You know, but that was such a biased article. You know, that one person that they highlighted has been a cyber stalker to the cannabis community, and this lady's basically writing about it like he's almost heroic. And it's just
was she? I don't even remember. I'll tell you one thing. I think I made that quote in a different article to a different person, and she saw it and used it from there. So it was a second-hand quote.
I believe you, because Vernon's girlfriend Lindsay said that she didn't say that at all to the reporter. And the part that bothers me is, you know, that there's so much more backstory in that. And that, you know, that guy, it's you know, I hate to spread any of that crap, but the truth is that there's a lot of good being done around BHO right now. I have never seen a more effective medium for medicine delivery with cannabis than I have these concentrates, because, you know, say what you want, but cannabis and cannabinoids work effectively medically very, very well, and we have never had a situation where people could get as pure cannabinoids and terpenes and as clean as cannabinoid and terpenes as they're getting now.
Right, but one thing I would add to that is that I wouldn't have potentially believed it, because I haven't really smoked oil for the last almost 20 years. Now, for those that don't know about my past 25 years, I got into concentrates probably around 95 when I met Rob Clark at the Cannabis Cup, and he said to me, if it don't bubble, it ain't worth the trouble. as the 50, as they called it back then, which was the 50%, was dripping down the down stem of the bong, and I was like, holy shit, like, I just couldn't believe it. I didn't understand it, and so I was on this mission to find the melt. And a lot of people who are on a mission to find the melt find the oil. And I think they find it because it's more readily available, it's easier to find. I mean, there are anomalies of people like Oregon or Sky High Atrist from Instagram down in Oregon. Both of those dudes, like the first time they ever made water hash was just like the fire, the best that you could make. Like they just have, if you grow great herb and you have everything lined up, then you're not growing these particular strains that literally wash away many of the terpenes, water solubles, most of the flavors and smells can be washed away in the water, and you improperly dry and don't cure, yeah, you can end up with a terrible version of the product. It can be nothing inspirational. So,
oh, word.
Hey, welcome everyone. I guess we got Horatio has come in, D420K has come in, Etienne has come in, Cuban's on his iPad.
Lagging.
La, 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 la. It's not too bad. We can see you. You're welcome. D's taking up 2 spots.
Word, yeah, this is a little tougher to use than the computer, not as user-friendly for sure.
It happens. Well, welcome anyway, dude.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? I realized, man, I was having the same issue trying to log on from my iPad that I was having in Denver, but I grabbed my, I bought a Galaxy S6, and it worked just fine.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Yeah.
You like that phone? Because I'm loving mine.
Yeah, man, I'm actually really enjoying my Galaxy. I had the iPhone before, but it had some issue with the Wi-Fi. They call Wi-Fi, and it didn't log into the Wi-Fi in the garden, and I just started hating the phone. So I switched over to the Galaxy. Man, it takes really nice pics. Hold on, Bobby. Here you go, Bobby.
Taking care of business.
Yeah, we're on a family vacay to the rainforest here in Washington.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful. See, that's the type of place I want Hash Church to be, where families can dip into Hash Church while on a family vacation and spread a little knowledge.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know how to switch over my camera. Let me see. No, man, this is crazy. Okay, so this is my personal smoke of rosin. This is supposed to last me a day. Do you think it's going to last me a day, bro?
Dude, no way. That'll be done before you get out of the car.
You got me like a pill there, Cuban.
What's that, like 30 grams?
I have no idea. I just started tumbling keef and then making it into rosin. I had no time to make dry sift because it was a last-minute plan, you know.
I like that.
I didn't want to. Yeah, man, I didn't want to get caught without the meds.
I like how you differentiated keef from dry sift.
Oh, yeah. Dry sift to me is only the Primo, the 99.
The 99. You know the 99. How about the origins of the 99? I don't even know if the SKunkman himself called it the 99, but one day I was over at his house, and I didn't very often ask things of the SKunkman. I was just always so honored to be hanging out with him and just so stoked to get along with him and be his friend. Like, not be his friend like I want to be his friend, but be his friend like, fuck, I really get along with this guy. Like, this guy is like a soul brother type of thing. And sitting there, and one day I just said, hey, man, can I take a picture of the sift? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I take a picture of this sift, and I almost fell on the ground when I put my camera up to it, and I turned the screen on the back, and it popped open, and then I focused it in, and it was just like, I mean, really, I don't think anyone had really ever seen a picture of that. Maybe through a shitty little microscope that was backlit, that looked like caviar balls, but not a full-size monitor shot of all golden, perfectly cured, like 99.999% heads. And that was the title of the first post when I put it on IC Mag back in '06 or whenever that was. And that's really how it became the 99. Like, what else do you call it?
my garden hand, he had this really nice camera. He's a mycologist, right? So he liked taking spore pictures and pictures of like mushrooms and stuff like that. So he would get the same camera and take pictures of the dry sift. And we would challenge ourselves, like, man, instead of taking a picture of this like really small 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, you know how macro is, it's like a very small area it focuses. I was like, try to focus it farther and let's see how big of an area we can achieve that remains 99. You know what I mean? That's like, I see that as the true challenge when I take pics. I'm looking forward to buying my first camera. I mess a lot with the Olo clips and stuff like that, but it's nothing compared to proper macro lenses and proper cameras.
Sorry, just dealing with a troll. Had to get rid of the Grim Reaper. Every once in a while, death's just gotta fucking go.
I was just in chat and I was just ready to say something, and that's why I wasn't talking.
Yes, thank you for monitoring chat, Johnny B. I do appreciate it. We do need to have at least 1 or 2 people in there paying attention. And then if people have important questions that you know, we feel that should be brought up, well, we will do that. That's what we're here to do. 543 people peeping us. D420K, did you get some way to light your torch?
I went and bought one at Rona.
Oh my god. Oh
I ain't fucking around, buddy.
You
I
are...
I forgot my torch at Rocco's yesterday, and I'm ready to do dabs last night, and I'm like, oh, fuck.
I get a message at 11:04. Where are you, bro? And I'm like,
And I think there's just a Starbucks, so we're getting started music.
Hey, can I?
What's that? Who's getting
Stuck with.
yeah, I was when you messaged me last night, I felt you. That's why I called you. I was like, okay, Shoppers Drug Mart's open 24 hours. 7-Eleven might have butane. I don't, and because I was trying to place where you were, but I was trying to help you out.
Hey, Johnny
Well,
B.
Shoppers Drug closed at midnight, and I found Shoppers Drug Mart close to me, about 15 minutes away, at 11:45. So I wasn't dabbing last night. That was it. It was over.
We got 24-hour shoppers out here, but you know what?
Yeah, I wouldn't drive that far.
Well,
I would just go to your house, man.
I lied down. I woke up this morning with all my clothes on.
Hey, John, have you found like a perfect moisture content for the herb? And by that I mean, like, do you have like a hydrometer that you can stick in the bag of herb and know the exact humidity or moisture content? I think that would be helpful to teach people in regards to, some people are using their bud too dry, some people are using it too fresh, and I think there must be, yeah, there we go. What are you putting up there, Todd?
Dude, I'm holding up these things. I've become the biggest fan of these things, to say the least. They're called Boveda packs, and what they do is they keep your herb at 62% humidity. It's absolutely amazing. It's a two-way product, so if you put it in a bag that's too moist, it'll actually pull some of the moisture out, and if you put it in a bag that's too dry, like most cannabis is, it'll bring it back up. You'll get the life back out of your buds. I mean, if you, like, this has been in this jar since last week. It was stuff I took to go to that meeting, but you hold it up, and look at this. It's still beautiful. You know, no crumble, pure perfect smell.
What do you
perfect
think
body.
the percentage of moisture is, Todd?
62% is what we recommend for cannabis. 62% humidity is the
that's
really the
humidity,
sweet spot.
There's a moisture content of the bud. That if you had a bag of bud, I think it's called a hydrometer. You stick it in the bud, and it'll show you the percentage. We used to use them back in the day because people would sometimes try to, you know, throw in half pounds that were too dry or too wet more often than not.
I used to use leaves. I used to take leaves off my mother plants and put them in my bag to rehumidify or keep the maintaining the humidity of my cannabis. The problem with that is, though, you can't.
Did you measure the moisture content? Because I can't remember what a perfect moisture content is. 20% or 18 or something?
Well, for me, when it comes to dry sifting, 60% humidity is not going to work for me at all. So, I mean, it's going to be way too moist. So when I dry sift, I'm down at 30% and at, like, you know, 60 degrees, and that's where I had to drop down my temperatures. and my humidity to sift that barb that I was talking about with you, Mark, the other day. So, I mean, if you're going to be smoking bud, yeah, those Bevo packs, we do sell those at the store, and they come in those C vaults. Everybody's got them now. They're great for reintroducing moisture to old bud. If it's like a couple years old, get those packs. What Todd said, those are awesome. But for sifting, I mean,
hold on. It's not about a couple years old. This is fresh pot, and it's about maintaining the quality of the cure. But you're right. I mean, I would never recommend 62% for making, you know, dry seed. No, drier the better in that case.
We are talking about different things too. We're talking about the humidity of the air. You guys are. I'm talking about the moisture content of the bud.
okay, so that.
Those are different.
You're talking about, we use that in soils, but I've never had one for actually testing bud, so I'll definitely check on that on Monday.
Dude, I'm telling you, yeah, you can stick it in a half pound of bud, a half pound of nugget, and it'll give you like a. I remember being like anything over 18 or 20 or something was like just too high and could cause problems, particularly if you sealed them up and they had a long journey to wherever they were going.
I can confirm that, because above 13%, I'd have a real hard time grinding or preparing material, and that's when I started to realize I had to standardize my humidity level just to be able to process in a standard way. Because something that's uber dry and perfect to break up, then you get something that someone would say is uber good to roll, but would be a disaster from a starting material stage for anything else. And in any kind of long-term storage, it's the one that's most prone to go bud rot.
So here's a very important variable we've unwittingly uncovered here that we're going to share with Hash Church right now, and we're all going to have homework to go home to. I want everyone to get a hydrometer. I want everyone to get a method of measuring the moisture content of their bud, because Horatio, you'll be able to share a different bit of information at what percentage of moisture content it works best for you. John can find out what the best moisture content for rosining is. You know, like even for making sick, you can go and. Cuban.
Hey, out of curiosity, people were wondering, where do you get the Boveda packs?
I get them from MedFresh myself. MedFresh is actually a wholesaler, though. You can also pick them up at any of your grocery stores, because grocery stores are starting to tune into them. The 8-gram packs are 88 cents or so. The smaller 4-gram packs are probably about 60 or 70 retail. They're really awesome, though. I mean, I'm such a devotee now. It's not funny.
Yeah, I'd like to put in my 2 cents on it. I see my moisture level because I get my flowers tested, and I range between the 4% to 6% on flower moisture, but I keep my flowers in a room that's about 50% humidity. So I think the humidity level of a room and the actual moisture content of the flower is measured differently, but I don't know exactly how to measure it from the actual flower, like how a lab would do it.
Hey, there's a good question in the asking, would reintroducing moisture to dry buds and then freezing them make more like running fresh frozen? Question mark.
Geez, that would be something you'd have to try. I mean, in a sense, when you run material, if you let it pre-soak, I suppose that's a smaller version of what you're doing, you know, unless you were to compare it to going over a longer period of time, like, oh, I had this bone dry material and I allowed it to moisturize over the course of 48 hours and then I ran it, versus, oh, I put it in the water and I let it soak for 40 minutes before I mixed, which probably would rob many, many terpenes.
Yeah, I agree with Cuban for sure. You know, different strains in different environments, they pull more water differently for sure. I mean, up here in Washington, you know, the weather changes a lot, changes inside, the humidity a lot, just because it rains and it gets nice and clear like it is today. Indefinitely, if you leave like 5 or 10 different kinds of weed out on the table, they'll all change their consistency and their moisture content to the point where you're like, oh, this feels different, but they've both been sitting out in the same environment for the last day or two, you know?
Totally. It's very interesting. And welcome.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a new toy. Have you guys seen this thing? Works good for water hash or anything else that's kind of nice. It's
Is
called
it-
the dipstick. Check it out. It's got a little magnet that holds the tip on.
So it's like
And then
one.
you just- it's like a little metal nectar collector. You're absolutely right. And you just hit the button and look, it gets right nice and hot. See?
Yeah, it's not getting hot.
Oh, my girlfriend turned it off. That'd be a good reason why it wasn't getting hot. See? Now it gets hot.
Now we see.
That's hot. Dude, and it works great. All you've got to do is just touch it to a little bit of wax.
What about a little bit of bubble? Can I touch it to a little bit of bubble? Does it work with bubble?
All day.
I'm just joking. It's just a question I get all the time. It's like,
It's
Hey, I
awesome.
wanted to ask, hey Todd, what do you think about like you know, pens in general, or what does everybody think about pens in general? Safe, not safe? You know what?
Could you do that question one more time?
Depends.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Is my microphone fucked up?
No. I had people walk in my room. Could you just
Oh.
repeat that, please?
Yeah. What do you think about the pens in general? I mean, there's like a million different kinds of pens, and it's hard to know like what's safe, what isn't. They've all been designed for tobacco products for the most part. Not all of them, but the majority of them are from previous designs for tobacco products in general, mostly liquid. You know, a lot of people are trying to change the consistency of their concentrate so it works better in the pens. And I'm sitting over here kind of like, well, maybe we should redesign the pen. You know?
Well, there's a few sides to that. You know, I mean, Mark and I were really happy when we got our hands on the Trippy Sticks because we could put dry seed, bubble hash, or BHO in it, wax in it, and we could go and just, you know, that was pretty nice. I really like this because it's not refillable. You just touch it to a little bit of the hash, and you just got to hit a hash. I think this is superior in that sense. Some of the pens I really don't like. I think it steps on the taste of the product pretty massively, and I haven't found a pen, you know, even Trippy Stick that really hits the way that it dabs, if that makes sense. You know, it doesn't really carry the taste as well as it could. But I think they're making improvements. There's this new one coming out called Grasshopper that's supposedly, you know, the coolest of cool. It was a Kickstarter campaign, and we'll see if it tastes better. Is the only thing. I mean, I'm kind of like, you know, I guess I'm from Missouri. I'm from the show me state when it comes to some of this stuff.
I'd love to see like safety sheets done on the actual pens. Like, what is in the materials that we're inhaling? Like, yes,
That's what I'm wondering.
do I like certain pens?
Well, what
Absolutely.
alloys are they using as a heating element has always been something we've always been concerned of. They've now gone from one coil to two coils, and a lot of them. Something like the Omicron has gone to having a titanium center. When I was traveling, I found that one to be as close to a rig as I could possibly get. But it's bulky, it's long, and I can, you know, use it in my car. But again, you've got so many pens coming out. They're cheaply manufactured. They break quick. They're from China. There's questionable metals used as the heating elements themselves. So myself, I've looked toward things to go toward the titanium end to find a metal that I know isn't off-gassing if I can. It's a crapshoot right now because there are no studies. And it's rather frustrating from a consumer standpoint because there's always something new coming out, and you never know if that's better or if it's worse.
Yeah, that's been my exact concern, is that I have no idea what's in it, what they're making it from, or any of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
the pens have always kind of like, I used one for like a few months. My throat and my lungs started hurting really bad, and I was like, I don't know what's in this, or what, maybe not, or maybe I bought the wrong shit. But you know, it felt like I was getting some kind of like, you know, it hurt my throat and my lungs.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So I wanted to chip in on the pen thing. I tried the pen thing before. I had a Persei, and I couldn't get it to work right? So I just put them off. I like to dab and smoke hash, you know, the natural way. So I got hit up by these people from a company in New York. They go by Puffco. And I ignored them for a little while, but my lady was going to go out to Florida, and she wasn't going to be able to smoke as much as she was in Washington. So we hit them up on the offer. They sent us 2 pens, and let me tell you that those pens were a lifesaver, bro. You can smoke water hash, dry sift, rosin. You don't gotta mix it with anything. It has like a ceramic chamber, easy to clean out, and the dudes are real nice, man. So I didn't get no weird feeling in my throat, but I definitely know what you're talking about, because back in Florida we had the G pens and stuff like that, and that shit was bad. Yeah, but the Puffcos are proper.
I find with the pens, I wasn't really into using them like every single minute of every single day, but when I was, say, back snowmobiling with my snowboarder and skier friends up in Whistler, it was perfect, because before that I was bringing like bongs and backpacks, and they were like, dude, you're kind of nuts, bro. Like, I had to do it, but I really appreciated the pens for that, like having a nice rip in the backcountry. It was like so good.
So check this out, bro. I met those guys at the Denver, right? They passed by the booth and they hooked everybody up with pens. On our way back on the plane, everybody had a pen loaded with like either, I don't know, some rosin or whatever the guys from the team had. And bro, we started taking pen rips in the plane, and that shit started reeking, bro. So we were in the backside of the plane, and there was a bunch of people from Washington that were flying back from Denver. You know, they didn't mind. But you could hear the comments up front. They were like, man, there seems to be this strong smell of pot in the back of the plane, and everybody just is so mellow back there. We were all taking pen rips massive, bro.
Dude, I'll tell you, I was on a plane to Kelowna once, and I took a pen rip and exhaled it, and it was bigger than I thought. And everyone smelled it, and people were like kind of laughing. It's BC.
Guys, you know, back in '95, when I got my prescription from my Dutch doctor, I debated the EPA in Miami with LBU Seeger in March of '95, and basically I challenged him to arrest me if he was going to let me back into the country with my international prescription. And when I called Martin Air, it was 1995 and smoking was allowed on the plane. They actually let me legally smoke my cannabis to and from Amsterdam in the jet on the way there. They took a copy of my medical prescription, but they were totally cool about it. I wish those days were still here.
The way I looked at it is if they were going to boot me off the plane, they were going to boot me off in Washington. So, you know, fuck it.
That's funny.
Smoke
hey, man,
on.
can I bring up something that people are talking about in your chat room, Mark?
Yes, of course.
You know, the High Times just pulled some awards from some of the hash makers saying that they added terpenes in Colorado.
Right.
And it's really disingenuous of High Times, because really they're full of shit. And really what is really going on, and I'm just going to kind of like fucking, you know, tell the world what's happening, is it's infused fruit flavors. So what these guys are now doing is they're taking dried fruit, dried mango, dried banana, dried oranges.
That's what I heard.
Dude, they're adding it into their tubes when they're actually blasting, because what's happening is, just like the terpenes in your cannabis, it's pulling the terpenes out of the mango, the banana, the fruits, and it's naturally mixing them together. And High Times is no more capable of figuring out which terpenes are in there or different than anyone else is. And realistically, it was just a personal battle between the staff and the kid, but it's kind of whack, because, you know, here you're going to see innovation like this. I mean, we have fruit-infused water, for Christmas sakes, and you're going to see more and more of it. It's natural terpenes, and I have no problem with people mixing fruits, you know, that I would eat, rather than things like, you know, that terpene that's nothing but a solvent, D-limonene, that people were taking and putting into the shitty CO2 oil they were making to make it, you know, taste palatable. You know, so it's really kind of screwed up. But yeah, people are using
I'd like to add
frozen fruits. Go ahead, Tone. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, because it's a little close to heart there. Number one, let's back that up, because you're talking about pens, and this is what I posted the other day. This is a no-cut solventless hash oil. So this is made at a subcritical CO2. Temperature's never over 100 degrees, and it preserves everything without a cut. You just have to have a $400,000 subcritical CO2 machine. But you could actually get this, and then what I'm doing is, this is cannabis-derived terpenes. Okay, so this is where High Times doesn't understand the difference. And so cannabis-derived terpenes, and this is a friend. This guy made the Hash Church logo. What does that smell like to you? Does it smell like cannabis or does it smell like fruit?
Straight flowers.
So that's like a Chem 91, a Jilly, a Etienne. It's got that chem in it. So the difference is, and I'm friends with Brendan and the guy that they took that away from. So this has been, like you said, there's a lot of things that are advancing in the cannabis world, and as of last year, I won second place with DNA genetics and trichome heavy extracts with what was called terp melt, which was utilizing the same source cannabis-derived terpenes infused with the trichome heads to make a terpene water hash. And then the difference is with CO2, you have a semi-polar, you've got non-polar, and you've got polar attributes to the plant. And so what's happening is people are figuring out, different groups are figuring out that you can change the polarity of your base to pull out different things. And what you said earlier was right on point with the fact that people are so scared of hydrocarbons, but when a hydrocarbon extract is done correctly, it's going to pull certain things out of that plant. And so the same thing with CO2, it's going to pull certain things out of the plant, and the same thing with water hash. And so in those three processes, in my opinion, what I've discovered is that anything CO2 based, even when it's done at this level, this super clean, literally clear, right? It's 95% THC. The closer you get to pure THC, the less terpene and flavors you're going to have. So
Colorless,
CO2,
colorless.
yeah, that's what it is. And so the closer you get to pure extract of THC, the less flavor you're going to have. And so the only thing we're trying to do is take that pure 95% or 99% and put the flavor and the taste and the modulators naturally back into the pen. This is different than what the clear does. This is different than other people using rotor vaps with like alcohol base to rotor vap that out, or ethanol. And those things, as Mark has talked about before, with proton NMRs, you can see conversions. When using alcohol, you get amaldehyde and different types of conversions with heat. And so the ultimate goal for all of us is to create the purest type of extract, delivering the purest type of response and full plant flavor, all natural. That's the goal. Now, what Brendan was doing in our entry, it was interesting to see that the highest terpene profile, top 4 that High Times released, was CO2. So CO2, in my opinion, is not the highest.
Tony, no, stop just for a minute, though. The coffee industry moved to CO2 extraction because CO2 specifically doesn't pull the terpenes and the flavonoids that make coffee taste like coffee, because the coffee company is reselling those coffee beans to us as decaffeinated coffee and then selling the caffeine they pull out as energy pills. So when they initially started using butane and propane, the problem they had was that it pulled too much of the essence out of the coffee, just like it does out of the cannabis. My problem with the CO2 is the reason that all those are the richest is because people added terpenes. It's not because you're pulling terpenes using CO2. In fact, you really can't pull terpenes using CO2, which is why all CO2 oil basically tastes flat and nothing like the cannabis it came from. So it's not, it's to me, there's so much misunderstanding and then so much basically fake knowledge being spread around because people think CO2 is good and butane and propane is bad, and then they go eat ice cream that's full of TBHQ, which is nothing but butane. It's the stabilizer that's almost in all of our frozen foods. And it bothers me when people start talking about this and don't understand it in comparison to the other safe products that we use on a daily basis. We wouldn't have a lot of our perfumes and flavors if it wasn't for these chemical extraction processes, and we don't mind them. We go in the supermarket, pick them up, and look for them every single time we shop.
Yeah, and to add on that, the difference between a butane and an entane 99% gas that is then distilled before it's used is significantly different, because butane over the counter in your cans has that smell. It has propellants. It has things in the can. And so when we're talking 99% lab-grade hydrocarbon, that is used from FDA-approved extraction processes on a lot of different things. All of your essential oils, that you're using for like when you see a natural essential oil product of lavender or aromatherapy. These things all use solvents to do their extractions because of the control that they have. Now, what Brendan did to talk about that, I think it's kind of shameful, in my opinion, to take something away from somebody without evidence and proof. And number two, if you're going to do something like that, because I'm friends with Green Wolf, I'm friends with Brendan and Dabalicious and everyone, and the thing that I would have done is perhaps approach it and say, look, we have suspect to believe that XY entry was done this way. We're going to do a suspension. We're not going to allow you to enter for 4 cups, or we're not going to allow you to enter on the next couple ones, or something like that, or you give a suspension. But to take something,
right. I want to just interject though, not to sound like but listen, a lot of where all this came from is people sitting at these High Times events and listening to Kenny Morrow, and you're one of the guys, that sat there listening to Kenny and went, Jesus, that's some goddamn good information. I'm going to go put that into practice, and that's all that has happened. Kenny was on stage a year ago telling people that they could use dried fruits and to enhance flavors and add terpenes, and only a few were listening. There's a few sharp guys like yourself that really are paying attention to people, and really we're seeing you guys innovate on levels that others are not doing. And I would say Dabalicious is one of those people. He listened to Kenny, he thought about it, he went and tried it. Everybody's blown away with his extracts. They smell great, taste great, awesome flavor. And it's all natural. It isn't no, D-limonene that came in a gallon jug that was intended to be used as a degreaser.
So the other thing is, I know the entries, and here's what's funny about all that. The ones that won, he did not do that to. The one that didn't place and the one that didn't win is what he did that for. And we found out that it was harsher and it didn't actually enhance anything. But the actual one that he won with, I know for a fact he did not do that to. That was a strawberry lemonade. That one was off the chart. And I know that when I presented my white live resin that had strawberry banana terps derived from cannabis only, all of the terps that I do is only from cannabis, it bubbled up like soap bubbles. It created clear domes over the nail, and people, I believe, probably disqualified it. I don't know yet. But I was in the indica category, and I wasn't even on the chart for terpenes, and I literally added this entire vial to 30 grams. Oh. That's how much terpenes I added to it. So for me not to be over 7 or 8% terpenes is a physical impossibility. Physical impossibility.
It's impossible.
That tried the strawberry banana understands that it was oil-based, and it was greasy and caked for the right reasons, and so that's how much terps went into it. We're talking about 2.5 milliliters per 25 grams of hash. And so Horatio back there understands how much terpenes that is, which is insane and ludicrous. And it was a wonderful, beautiful extract that was super clean, that had nothing on the throat. And I know Cuban tried it, I believe. I think he tried. You did try it, right?
Yeah, it was fire actually, bro. It was that really, really light white wax, right? That was some flame.
Yeah, and that was all cannabis derived.
And I don't even think it bubbled all weird. I actually thought it looked proper when I tried it, man.
Yeah, it's a pure. It was the perfect blend of essential oils and terpenes and cannabinoids. It bubbled up, clear dome like it's supposed to, and that wasn't on the chart for terpene. It wasn't even anywhere on their top 5 for terpenes. It wasn't anywhere on their THC. It wasn't anywhere on the grid. So I just assume I got disqualified again. I've been disqualified 3 times before. And that's why I only do one entry, because the entries that we end up doing are usually advanced, and they're kind of like beyond them knowing what to do with it. Now the other people, this is the problem. There were a lot of other entries that entered over-the-counter terpenes. So now what's happened is you've got a lot of people just putting food-grade terpenes into their hash and mixing in terpenes and turning that in. And generally, it's pretty harsh. Other people that have tried steam distillation terpenes, they'll find out when they mix it with their hash, it's really harsh. So what's happened is there's a massive wave of confusion into that sector. And so now when the judges look at it or High Times looks at it and says, oh, added terpenes, it's almost like it's not good enough. And essentially either they need to create a new category for people and for people that understand what a U.S. recreational cup is. That's essentially what this was. This was a U.S. recreational cup. So that means the consumers that are on the planet that are consuming everyday products, just like you said, flavored water, flavored tobacco, flavored pens. There's flavored everything. Now, how they flavor it is what we should all question. Is it flavored with chemicals? Is it flavored unnaturally? How is what's the conversion rate when it's being vaporized with those particular type of terpenes? And that's why I try to stay away from anything that's not natural. Do I think what Brendan did with fruit inside the chamber is unnatural? No, I don't. I don't think it's unnatural. Did it make me feel weird as somebody that worked on terpenes that somebody did fruit? Absolutely. Did I at first question everything he did when I was like hearing about it? Sure. But when you know the guy and you know how good he is and you know the starting material and he's literally telling you, yes, these three I didn't and this one I did, he doesn't have to tell you that. He doesn't have to be honest. He doesn't have to say, hey, one of those I did and three I didn't. But he was. He was straight up honest. He said, hey, I tried to use fruit in this one and it came out like crap. It didn't taste as good as the natural way. So I think that it's, you know, another situation to where it's an advancement in extracts, and they probably need to create a new category. Yep.
You know, I'd like to point out that Kenny actually presented this at High Times, where he actually had the terpenes that he got the United States patent on and the wax that he made it with. He only, after processing 78 pounds of product, he only got 3 grams of the terpenes. And he intentionally did not add them back like you did, because he wanted to show people this is the future. This is going to be the process. It's adding, you know, your chocolate to your peanut butter, you know, and understanding it before he hands you a Reese's peanut butter cup was really what he was trying to do. But High Times disqualified him for this, and it because really just a lack of understanding of what's happening and just stepping on people that are innovating in the future. I find it annoying, to be quite honest, because you know, we're the ones that are actually doing it, and you have these people that sit around in offices in a magazine, you know, and are clueless to the process or the technical understanding that gets involved in this, and you know, they pass judgment, and then they put out false information about people, and it bothers me because he's a good guy, and you know, and we should support people that are innovating our industry, because it will in turn make for better, cleaner, more interesting products for us all.
I agree, and I was a little annoyed. I just didn't voice my opinion that much because I could also understand with the other group of people that are cheating with, you know, over-the-counter terp. So it creates a mass amount of confusion. I would suspect that the next cup, the next one after that, you would see a concentrate division that's kind of like what they would consider maybe open source, like a free-for-all concentrate. So, I got canna. Bubbleman knows that song all too well.
Shit's going off in Tony.
Yes. You know, I feel at least that there's a difference in the way that the taste buds can taste like non-cannabis derived terpenes and the way that cannabis derived terpenes will hit. A lot of times, let's say the clear or, you know, comparable product, a lot of times that when it's terpene enhanced, I don't taste it on the onset while I'm hitting it, but it overwhelms the exhale. When I tried Tony's, it was really terpy on the inhale, a lot like Full Melt, and on the exhale, it felt like it just stained my clothes with taste. I don't know how the fruit one went, but for Dabalicious, I just gotta say, man, he made some of the best looking BHO that I have ever seen. It was almost white, and the stuff I tried, I think it was what he placed first with, was very tasty. Luz let me try some, and it was great.
Yeah, I thought the stuff that he placed first with, the strawberry lemonade. I mean, like I told you guys, having the cannabis-derived terpenes put back into it, it was literally the most flavorful extract I could make. But even his, I felt was better. He was in a different category, but I agree with you. It was one of the most tasty VHOs I've ever had as well. And like I said, to take it away from him without the actual evidence is kind of odd, especially 2 days later, making a public announcement. I don't know. It's kind of business slander on Greenwolf too, because I think they could have handled it a little differently and a little bit more.
Yeah, I need to see that link, bro. I haven't seen it, but the dude is incredible, man. He's placed top 3, like first and second, or first and third, or something like that, multiple times. I remember in LA, he placed nice for concentrates.
LA, he did
it again, and yeah, he crushed LA, didn't he?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's a tricky situation. It's like, I just think that like taking it away from somebody or disqualifying them or taking away awards, I think there needs to be a little bit more investigation or a little bit more public awareness of what that could do to somebody's business too. Like if you're Greenwolf and you win a bunch of stuff and then people take it away from you, it makes you look like you're a cheat, and I'd be upset if I were those guys because they didn't cheat, and they're just doing things that they should do in the concentrate category. So there was nothing.
But is there even a rule that says you can't add terpenes?
No rule. And Kenny, like Kenny did. Kenny was the first one to do it, and his was number like 50 out of 1 through 50. They just automatically disqualified him and didn't even give him the time or day. And that's fucked up because straight up, I know how much work that goes into extracting terpenes, and especially with his patent and how much work went into it and what he had to do that. And that's his method and that's his way. And I thought it was fucking genius. It was like the Star Spangled Banner when Jimi Hendrix came out. And I told Kenny that to his face when I tried it, and it was inspirational for me. And I was working on other stuff with the full melt and the solventless and the terpene. So it's, I look at that as if somebody didn't quite accomplish what he set out to do in that particular cup, but he also accomplished an inspiration among our industry that's going to lead the charge into a new direction. And so, it is.
I think it's fuck. So you're telling me that, and I'm sorry, man, for having you probably repeat the info, but the abolitionists didn't place first then? They took it away from him?
They took his first and second place away from him and claimed that he could artificial but those particular extracts he did not. He only entered one of his 4 that actually used fruit inside the chamber.
But DQ'd all of them.
But DQ'd all of them immediately. I personally, I think on a business level, I would have just said, hey, look, privately and said, look, you guys can't compete in the next 2 events, maybe 4 events. Something that's like normal. Like, that's like the Olympics going back saying, hey, use steroid drugs on every race that you had. I mean...
Well, if that's the case, then they should have disqualified the Cake Tash in LA. If they want to get strict with it, they didn't take that guy's cup away. I don't think they should have taken this dude's cup away either, man. It's pretty fucked up.
Well, I want to add that what you just said is true, and the fact is that there's personal relationship sandpaper that's happening behind the scenes, and honestly, I think that the powers that be at High Times are using this as an excuse to kind of jab somebody for some personal problems they have, and it's really whack, because we're having a conversation about what's not really happening, if that's the case, because we're talking about the science behind the entries, and it really isn't what really happened, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
There's no rule.
Hey, well, I'm sorry, man. I'm on the phone, so if I'm talking over you guys, I apologize. But regardless, man, that guy is still number one and number two in my heart, bro. Even if they took it away from him, that dude's a G.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask. Ken's here. So let's just say, hypothetically, the rosin that was entered in the hybrid category, right? Let's say Ken's rosin, Trichome Heavy entered a rosin this like this type in the hybrid category, and let's say he won with a rosin in the concentrate category. There's nothing in the rules that says it can't be a rosin. It just says a concentrate category. So would they have taken that away? Or if I take cannabis-derived terps into a rosin, which is what we've been doing, which is honestly some of the best hash ever, and if that wins, you're going to take it away? Like, that's ridiculous.
You should have never take anybody's award away. That sucks because they had the judging time to make a decision. Not only that, but they have that litigation process or whatever it's called where they meet up and try to convince each other to make, first, second, and third. If they sat down and they agreed on it, then that's the decision, dude. You should have then made the rule or enforced it for the next competition. But they did it the wrong way for sure.
I think we can all agree that High Times needs a contest consultant. Now,
hey, I want to say something. Mark, be my witness. High Times has been having very suspicious contests since their very first public one in 1994, which I was at. And you know what? The truth of the matter is all those cups have been questionably won and questionably handed out since the start of the public events. And I'm not trying to discredit the people that have won. Some of them have brought some really great fire. But the truth be told, it's been more of a friend contest than it was an actual contest of cannabis, ever. And, you look at like High Life, they would send judges sample packs that had numbers on it, and you had no idea where the numbers came from. You had a month with the product, you could really test the stuff, and you can make honest determinations. That's never been the case with High Times. You're handed a shitload of weed or hash, you got a week in Amsterdam, you're stepping on every single flavor with the next one. It's been a joke, I mean, the High Times competitions, I'll just say it, have been a joke for over 20 years. And now with them doing them, so many of them, what are they worth now? Right.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to make. I was going to say, we can all agree that the contest part of it, you could argue till the sun goes down about why it's this or that, or they should add a category. But at the end of the day, like Todd's saying, it's a popularity or political contest if you really want to get down to it.
Flavor. He's gonna add some.
Well, it always has been. On top of that, to say that it's a concentrate area, well, that's what these guys are doing. They're taking concentrated terpenes and putting them with great hash. So, I mean, for High Times to disqualify people without even putting statutes on what is good, what isn't good, is also a sham because these people went through it. They earned their cup. I mean, honestly, who here does, has a cup? I got one, for Girl Scout cookies. I know across the board here many people have. So honestly, in the future, what is the worth of a cannabis cup if everyone's got one?
Well, and the other thing is, so are you calling me a liar? Do you actually think that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing and how to make something? You just think I'm cheating. At this point, after 7 awards, you just think I'm cheating. And 13.
And after being on stage and receiving the award, you're gonna disqualify. That's not the right order of operations there, bro. Don't you get disqualified during the judging process? Not after you win.
Yep. Well, I think
100%.
There's a lot of sort of shallow energy in that cup experience, and it's very one of the main reasons why I've never even personally competed. I don't need High Times to tell me that my hash is good. I don't need to have, here's how they do it in Kathmandu in Shivaratri, when it's Shiva's birthday. In Kathmandu, if you go to a gathering of like Heady Babas, these hardcore sadhus that have been like fucking, they're wise dudes, man. Like some of them speak 50+ languages, incredible inspirational dudes, and they'll put out a buffet. They'll put a plate out of hash, many plates of hash, and everyone just smokes from the buffet.
And when your plate is finished, that's how you know you brought the best. When your plate is empty and everyone else's plate still has hash on it. Because everyone brings their little plate of hash. All right, who's got the cream? Who's got the best? Boom! You know that shit would disappear so fast if you put a bunch of fiends in a room.
It's just like a potluck dinner.
Just like a potluck dinner, dude. You could call it the potluck cup.
Well,
Let's just name
I
it.
just read it's solvent free. Because
Solvent
you're
free, sorry, solvent
yeah,
free.
yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
is solvent free, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it's like CSA. So you know how the
like clear.
You know how the clear uses alcohol, rotary
Yeah.
and then it goes until it decarboxylates to 25.
Oh.
That's what this is without alcohol,
Okay.
without any chemicals at all.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to the, you know, adding a new category, I definitely think we probably should. For, you know, if you want to call it adulterated or unadulterated or whatever. You know, at the end of the day, me personally, you know, I like raw extracts, whether it's purified, clean, has a little bit of whatever in it or not. If it's from raw, high-quality cannabis flowers, that's what I'm into personally. I don't want to smoke trim. I don't want to smoke leaves. I'm just not into it. And, you know, a lot of products like the clear with the added terps, regardless, I'm just not really into low-quality shit, even if it is really clean and been purified. It's like a fruit juice from concentrate versus cold pressed. For me, I prefer, you know, from raw fruit, not overly processed and purified, to the point where it's, you know, maybe not, it's representative of what it came from, but it's not necessarily the same.
Right. Are you going to treat cancer with that? The clear raw is for cancer. I mean, it's for oral administration and the medicinal properties that go a lot further with a lot smaller amount when you eat it. I mean, that's really what the fight for cannabis is about. So I don't know how we got into the recreational bashing of the clear when its real product is taking and purifying the essentials of the medicinal end of oral ingestion.
No, I agree 100%. It's a more a pharmaceutical product. I'm not bashing. For me personally, I'm not into. I'm a recreational smoker. You know, I'll be honest, and you know, so I like smoking high quality products from flowers. That's what I've always been into. Now I agree 100% that the research and work and it as a product. For purity and for the purposes of that is you know, it's better than a raw product. It's you know what you're using, and that I think that is important 100%. It's just a difference between recreational preference or if, like you said, it's a medical situation and the application for that medicine. I'm not talking about raw, like I'm not drinking apple juice because it's well, I guess maybe it'll keep the doctor away, as the old saying goes, but you know, I do things because I like it. Typically, not. You know, I'm just speaking personally. The medicine of cannabis is a completely different topic than what I'm discussing.
Which reminds me about the, you know, all this talk of high times and the competition. I've never gone to the cup for the competition. For me, it's never ever been about that. And I think even the people that go and think they're going for the competition sometimes miss out on the fact that what they're really going there for is to connect with these incredibly passionate, like-minded people from around the world that are pushing the education and the normalization of cannabis use, of all of its recreational, industrial, preventative, and medicinal aspects. And that's what the cup is really about, and that's what you really have to give it up to High Times. You can slander them all you want about how shitty their contest is. Obviously, that's like going to McDonald's and complaining about the fucking food. But they have this high-quality aspect of the people that they bring into their gatherings. That's all of us, and that's how I met a lot of you guys, and that's how I met some incredible people in the industry. You know, that's how we went to the Cannabis Cup in '94 and met Jack Herrera and got the book, and then by '95 we had hemp growing in Canada. That was all because we went to the Cannabis Cup and met John, going back 25 years here, 20 plus years. Anyway, John Stahl, he was a expat living in the Ukraine. He was going to the Cannabis Cup as an expat American living in the Ukraine. He knew all these farmers in the Ukraine, Borodko and Sasha from the Institute of Bast Fibers, and he was basically trying to sell Ukrainian seed to the hemp market that did not yet exist. We were just young and on the ball, and only because we went to the Cannabis Cup and met Jack Herrera, we literally learn about all of this stuff in a short 2-month period. We annihilated that book cover to cover, back, forward and back, and you know we got hemp growing in our province because of that. And I literally, as much as I want to give it all the props to Jack or to whoever, whichever one person, High Times was a big part of that. You know, they rented out the PAX Party House next to the police station. They had the Cannabis Cup hosted there, and I don't know, it was just been pretty cool these last 20 plus years going to these cups. I'm really looking forward to Jamaica. I think it's going to start a whole new experience similar to Spain, but even more intensely amazing because A, the Jamaican people are so passionate and such an amazing group of people. The culture, the food, the music is my favorite. I'm a huge reggae fan, so I can't really say that I'm going to be upset hearing 24/7 reggae at the Jamaica Cannabis Cup. I'm fucking looking forward to that shit. Indeed. All right, my rant is over.
No, I gotta second you there for sure. High Times has brought us all together. Especially back in the early 90s, it was the only information that we could get out to people. When we were out with Cannabis Action Network doing Hemp Tour, the only magazine we had was High Times. And so people looked at it for the THMQ in there to see exactly what was the price, you know, in their local region and giggle about it and laugh about it. And the hemp, the high 100 in the back always made people giggle. But honestly, getting us all together, and yeah, shit, it's coming up on 20 years. I got married at the High Times Cannabis Cup. Ooh, you know.
Which year?
And I would say the same thing. I'm not bitching about the competition part. I agree. It brings everybody together, and that's the important part of it. But I just think that taking away somebody's awards like that, that maybe wasn't the best way to do that. You know what I mean? Like that's.
No doubt. They handled that completely wrong. There's no way they should have done that, especially even how they handled Kenny and how they've handled you and others who are pushing the envelope, which is what we're always trying to do. What's new? What can we do? There's no rules against it. And then for them to just come after the fact and kibosh people just leaves the masters. I mean, we're all masters at our craft at a certain resolve with a bad taste in our mouth. And where we go, we're going to go somewhere else if that's going to be the case, or they have to open it up to another category that allows people to actually compete in, I don't know, an adulterated category, a terpene added category.
Well, and I wanted to say one thing. I guess I might have some. Davalicious was saying that, Brendan was saying that in all of his entries this cup, he did not do the fruit run. So there's a little confusion on one of the entries that didn't place anyway.
That's what I've heard from him as well, that none of his entries had this certain technique of either frozen fruit or dried fruit or whatever he was using. And this is just from what I've heard from him and as well. So all parties, you know, are unaware of all parties that collaborated, including Brendan, you know, Davalicious, is unaware of why these got disqualified, I believe. I mean, he from what I heard, it was in a context conversation with like Nico around, or to Nico, saying that he was messing around with that and that he was doing it around those entries and around that time. But from what I've heard personally and from him is that he did not put fruit in any of his entries.
Welcome, Ken, by the way, Mr. Trackle Heavy Extract. In the Jose.
Just to clarify as well, I mean, I've competed in about 5 or 6 cannabis cups, and I've never once read a rule book.
No shit.
I don't know if there's, you know, there's nothing been told to me by any high time staff member or owner or anything. Yeah, they
in Amsterdam, we did a collaboration with Tony here, and we mixed, cannabis
Same thing.
terpenes, yes, from Jilly Bean with Bruce Banner, and Mark had it all over his hash church. And all over, Bubbleman's world. And when we handed in the entries to High Times to Matt Stang himself, I said, this is, bubble hash that has been re-added with cannabis terpenes, and no solvents though. This wasn't, and because that's what we do. We are a solvent-free extract company, and he was blown away, and we ended up getting second place. So I just don't understand what these rules are and where they are, because if they were written down and if they were somewhere, documented, then I'd love to see them.
Yeah, and for us, what I was getting at is, if they did that to him, are they going to go back to last year and do that to us for a year later? You know what I mean?
I think one thing we have to keep in mind is that all this stuff is brand new. So, who knows, at the end of the day, how we've seen this happen where they've had to separate just solvent and solventless. It's all this new stuff that's coming on board that does probably need its own new category, and whether or not they implemented it this time or last time, like I said, I think they need a consultant like Tony to, kind of figure out the rules, so to speak. I think the rules were so simple for so many years because people really only entered weed and hash. That was it. That's all it was. It wasn't like all these different kinds that we're now doing. And
yeah, agreed. 100%. That's what's happening. It's just evolving very quickly. And like when Kenny came out with his stuff, that shit was alien. That was like an alien ship landing from Mars on the planet. And everyone was like, what the fuck?
Right. How do you know what to do with it if you've never even seen it before? Right. And then that's what's also important about Hash Church here, is so that people can learn about it and learn what it actually is and where its place in in the industry or whatever it is, right, or in contest or whatever it is, where you need to put it. Because, at the end of the day, everybody needs to kind of convene and say, well, okay, is it solventless, solvent-free? Is it, what is it, and where do we place it?
For sure. Innovation should be applauded, I feel like, not...
right.
Not
and studied, not shamed and ridiculed,
Yeah, and for some groups to be shamed and ridiculed, and then for some to just win and keep doing their thing, it's a little, bass backwards if you ask me.
It sounds like life.
So
I think it's just a product of quickly evolving concentrate industry, period, right? And we just have to implement it quickly. More quickly is, I guess, what we're seeing as a result of this, is that they don't know how to judge it, and now someone is paying the price for that, the incongruence between it,
Yeah, and I guess we shouldn't beat a dead horse anymore. We all voiced our opinion, and we all, as extract professionals and things, we're all going to get each other's back regardless, I think that I'm looking forward to Jamaica with Legends of Hash and a different type of gathering. I think there's other things that we can look forward to, and I think they're going to get all of our opinions voiced to them, and maybe they'll create a rule book or create something that would actually create a standardization. Maybe not. We'll see what happens with them. But it's like anything new. Like I'll give you an example of how stupid I was this morning. I got this sent in the mail to me, which is a silicone. This is a silicone carbide D-nail. Have you seen this yet? I don't know if you guys have all seen this. Bubbleman's been using it. This is the bottom, and then you put your top on. I just want to show you where I was at, and I'd never seen one of these before.
What's your carb look like?
Well, look at this, dude. This came in the mail like this. So I wrote them back, and I've never seen one in my life before, okay? So I wrote this guy back after...
Yeah, you've seen mine.
I've seen yours, but I wasn't paying attention. And look in the background, you could see our friend has one as well. He just showed it. So I've never seen this. So now Now, I never saw this before, so I wrote him back and I said, well, I'm going to return it because my coil doesn't fit on here, right? And so he's writing me back. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know, man. You guys usually don't do things like this. I can't get my coil to fit on there. And this is the same thing of like Kenny's hash or anyone's right there. There's the nail. So little did I know they make a flat coil right there. Look at his. Look at Todd's.
Yeah.
Todd's got a flat coil. Now, that's the shit. Now, if you knew a flat coil existed, then you would know what to do with this. Since I didn't, and I was uneducated, I wanted to send it back because I had no idea what it was.
You know what they did for me, Tony?
What's up?
They put mine, before the sapphire tray, they put mine on an additional piece.
Oh, look at that.
That fits.
That's why yours was different.
Mine fits a 20.
Exactly, dude. That's why I knew something was up. I was like, there's just, what the fuck? Exactly. That's exactly what we used in Jamaica. So when I saw this thing, I thought this was a manufactured defect, and I was like already ready to disqualify it like hash. You know, and then he went back and forth. He's like, nah, bro, check these out. And so it's all about education. And I think, like, what...
Hey, do you have the insert? It looks like you just had the pan.
Well, no, because that was the original pan, Todd. I got it before they developed the pan. Then they sent me the pan with the insert and the tray. But lately I've been using this 16 mil one on a titanium with a full sapphire dish inside.
Yeah, that's what I had in Barcelona. That works great.
Yeah, I like them all. They are. You know what? Truly, as a connoisseur, I could picture myself. I mean, I have 4 pieces going right now, but I could even see myself with 5 or 6 different pieces where you've got your silicon carbide, you've got your sapphire, you've got your ceramic, you've got your quartz, you've got your titanium. And you know what? You're just hitting maybe one variety off of the different nails over the course of an hour, getting to know the differences and the subtle changes that you experience when the heat from a certain surface, touches your resin.
Yeah, so I was using that as an example of like just being educated. I think Fletch makes a good point. They need to have maybe a consultant that just previews a bunch of the entries. And I think if you're going to disqualify someone like Cuban was saying, is how about contact us before you make that decision while you're making those decisions. I mean, Emotech's been around a while. I've been around a while. If you're questionable about an entry, call us up. Say, hey, you know what? We're kind of like suspect about this. Can you talk to us?
Yeah, Tony, you're talking about not what really happened, dude. It's not. It's like, I hate to say it again, but they know what time it is, and they're not going to call for your opinion because your opinion has nothing to do with their personal problems. And that's really what it's all about. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about the shit I know, but I know that it's not about the samples. It's not about the terpenes. It's not about a better understanding of the samples. It's not about consulting. It's about their petty problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's that, Bubbleman? You got some Horatio terps?
Yeah, a little Horatio terps in the building.
What you got?
I believe this one was like Pineapple Express.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's one of the first terps. How has it changed over time?
Well, this one is the water, and it smells great, dude. Like, actually, it makes me want to drink it.
So it doesn't degrade or like go moldy or anything like that?
Oh, no, it smells amazing. Same with this one. These are the real heady pure terps, pure terps, and they smell like just perfume.
Watch it, it's clear. So when you're done with your big patties, you're like, oh, it doesn't.
Hey, I've got something I wanted to mention today. Seeing as though we've had quite the discussion about high times, I thought we'd bring it back to, for those of you in Oregon, you might know about Dr. Phil Leveque, World War II hero and pot doc. He was. I'll read a little thing here. It's they're talking about him. It was great. It is with great sadness that I share this news. Our doctor, friend, teacher, and mentor, 92-year-old Phil Leveque, passed away Saturday afternoon peacefully with his family aside him.
Oh, no.
His great niece described him as the most awesome, intelligent, funny, open-minded, game-changing great uncle, Dr. Phil Leveque, and that about covers it. He did change the game. Many of you know that he had been suffering from the effects of cancer and ongoing pain from a broken hip and leg that were repaired well over a year ago. His passing was not expected, and he has been unwell for a number of months, and the effects of cancer finally took its toll. Though difficult, it is a great relief to all that love him that is finally free of pain. He was preceded in death by his wife Eve in 04 and daughter Rochelle in 07. He was a soldier to the end. As a young man, he served as a combat infantryman in World War II, a forward scout. I walked most of the way under fire from Luxembourg almost to Dresden, under fire on a daily basis. I spent more time on the point than anybody else in my battalion and more time on the observation post than anybody except for my own 6 guys. I don't have any idea how I got out of that alive, he said. After insistence from his wife Eve, Dr. Leveque began writing about his experience about war 20 years after the fact, when PTSD was apparent as a factor in his life. They had a family of 5 children, and the kids had questions of their own. In his memoir, General Patton's Dog-Faced Soldier, he expresses what couldn't be spoken about. It helped him move through the nightmares, and he began speaking to groups and helping others. He dealt with PTSD for almost 70 years, so he could relate. He told the story many times about a call he got from a high-ranking Catholic priest. The priest told him, "Somebody just gave me your book. I'm a combat infantryman myself, and you got it right." He was a doctor of osteopathy with a PhD in pharmacology and toxicology, and spent a great amount of his career as a professor at the medical school level, moving the entire Leveque clan to the far reaches of the earth, one adventure after another. He did not let any grass grow under his feet. If he wasn't working on something, he wasn't awake. He had a great sense of humor and loved to dance where music was playing, but he had his serious side. Dr. Leveque was a private individual. The brilliant doctor was a consummate scientist. He researched and studied with intensity every subject that he took on, and he studied cannabis marijuana for over 50 years. He was brave. He never minded being the spokesman for the causes he believed in, and cannabis became one of those causes. He became a prominent supporter of Oregon's 98 medical marijuana initiative, helping legalize the use of marijuana as medicine, and he fought for patients' rights his entire career. And it was that very battle that stole his career from him. He never gave up, though, and he never let the bastards get him down. I was blessed to have come into his life in 03, first as a doctor and then as a business associate and friend. He began writing for SalemNews.com in 07, and he soon became an integral part of our family. He is still known, the pot doc to thousands of patients. We know and love him, including over thousands of veterans. Always, he would lay down his life for any of them, and any of us. He gave his all. Dr. Philippe Leveque, the war is over. You have won. Rest in peace, dear friend. You will be greatly missed. And that was written by a woman by the name of Bonnie King from the SalemNews.com, and I thought we'd give props to Dr. Leveque, a true cannabis warrior.
That man was amazing. I had the fortunate amount of time to spend with him in Oregon when we're working on things in Oregon throughout the years as Activism, and that man was a stalwart, funny guy, always a presence in every room that he stepped into, and as good as it gets. I'm a combat veteran myself. I suffer from PTSD. I'm actually PTSD in Dr. Lester Greenspoon's book, Marijuana the Forbidden Medicine. And it was Dr. Leveque who really showed us and vets, you know, cannabis, how to deal with it, him and Dr. Todd Mickeria. I mean, there's 2 doctors that belong on a Mount Rushmore of cannabis doctors who really affected change and really helped so many people by not just saying it. He got up every single day, brought his lunch pail, kicked ass, and did it again the next day. I mean, you cannot not respect somebody who gave their life's work and has pushed it to the point where the darkest ages back when he was dealing in World War II to where he died and it was legal in his state. That's fucking awesome on so many levels.
True enough, dude. True enough. Well, it's a nice long life, I'll tell you that much. 92 years strong. 50 years working for cannabis. That's impressive.
We should do a poll for Dr. Leveque.
Yes, I'll do another poll for Dr. Leveque. We have 665 viewers watching us right now, and I hope you guys are going to do a poll for Dr. Leveque as well. Dankjewel. Oh yeah.
So I got a question for Tony. Oh, he's on the phone. Never mind.
Okay, so Aaron just called me from DNA. He said that he wanted to be on and apologize to you, Mark, but he was going to see Spearhead. And he says that he wanted to express that he has his full support for Brendan and basically wanted to make sure that everybody knew that as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll miss you, buddy, but damn, enjoy Spearhead. That's one of my favorite bands to go see live.
He said you'd say that. He said you would say that.
Dude, they're awesome. I've seen them at the base of Whistler a few times, and it's been just epic.
Okay.
I know Todd knows Michael pretty well.
Michael's been one of my close friends since we started doing Spitfire tour together in the 90s. Michael's got a great heart.
So I drew a line in the sand. I don't know if you could see it.
Yep.
One side has terps added to it, one side straight rosin. So that's terp rosin and rosin. Terp
Bro, your
rosin.
stand's wet, bro.
Super wet.
He's delicious. All right, smoke a bowl of each and tell me what you think.
He's going to do the Pepsi challenge here.
So we have 4 weeks to send any contact info of like musicians that we know and contacts in Jamaica to Matt to help basically. I would love to see some amazing bands at the Cup in Jamaica.
I mean, we have like at least 40 we could recommend right now. I would love to see them. I'd love to see Chronics, Nomads, Jesse Royale, and Nomad, and Richie Spice. The 4 of them would be incredible.
I talked to the Nomads, and they like the idea, definitely. I said that I would hook them up with him, just pass their email over. And yeah, I think that you're right, any of those and all of those. Prophecy, I mean, for me, I suggest going for all the people that have the best cannabis-based songs.
Prophecy would be one. I'm sorry I left him out.
Who's that?
I'm sorry I left Prophecy out, 100%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Prophecy's on the ball. It's going to be fucking unbelievable. Fields and fields. I wonder if people will plant fields of weed just to do tours.
You're funny. I thought there was already fields of weed.
Oh, there are, but they're going to have to plant new ones, you know? Like, those fields will be harvested before the Cup.
With or without?
With. Here's without. But again, like the terps being blended, like I don't like to mix the strains. I'm convinced that it needs to be the same.
That's what I was going to say. It kind of was a lot of different things.
Yeah, that was a glue, an OG, and a chem and I mean it was like a lot.
My dog's barking.
That wasn't me.
That's my dog. Cougar's trying to eat him. He'll be fine. He's tough.
Okay, so what I got going on here today, I'm hitting Medikush rosin. I got Medikush sift, and I'm hitting the bong with some buds. So it's kind of like one of those great days of hitting everything. Thanks to all of you guys, we've learned so much. Just a little shout out to all of the epic stuff.
Good times. Nice to have a quiver of your medicine.
It is definitely nice.
Quiver of medicine. I thought Rob was going to come in today. I wore my Himachal Pradesh Charas University shirt, which is, of course, Manali, Parvati Valley, and Malana. Oh, Robbie could have told us stories of each of those places.
He emailed and said he was going to come, too.
I know, but he's in like, is he in New Zealand or northern Thailand or?
He's in a funky time zone, yeah.
Probably fishing somewhere wonderfully beautiful.
Exactly. It's just like he could be anywhere.
It's like he's an earthling or something, man. It's crazy.
He's definitely been traveling for a while.
That's all he does.
You do mean psychonautically, right?
Psychonautically. Wow, you gotta love Hash Church. Just someone just contacted me and said that their brother is the assistant to a big agent with a big company that books talent all throughout the Caribbean and the Pacific Northwest. So he's just offering if we needed to contact any people we didn't know, maybe he could link it up. Gotta love it. Switch the video? I missed that. I'm behind. I'll tell you, looks like a pretty beautiful day out there. It's going to be summer here soon, sooner than later. Looking forward to putting the boat in the water and getting out. Love spending time on the ocean. Or lakes, for that matter. We've got enough of them here in Canada.
It's like cold out here in the valley.
I took my dirt bike in yesterday too. I'm gonna get it all like tuned and sorted for the upcoming summer adventures. I'll start taking Bubbleman's world on some. I've never really shared dirt biking. I know I've done Harley Davidson cruising with D420K, and I've done Argo with Johnny B, and snowmobiling and different vehicles. I don't think I've ever done a dirt bike cruise, so that's my favorite. I can't wait to share that with everyone. I love the idea of doing things, you know, enjoying cannabis and then going and doing things, not just always necessarily sitting in front of a computer or sitting in front of a screen of some sort. I'm definitely pro-action. Welcome back, Todd.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
You've changed your surroundings?
Yeah, I changed computers.
Nice.
How's this one working? Fine?
It's working fine, yeah. Definitely not as high quality of a camera.
It's the same camera. I'm on my Mac.
Really?
Same Logitech camera. Yep, same 920. Yep, but I'm on my Mac instead of my PC.
So what, the drivers for the PC allow it to work better, or it is a PC-based?
Do the drivers for the PC allow it to work better? You know what? Maybe, who knows? You know what? There's an i7 liquid-cooled in my PC, and this is just an i5. It's a MacBook Pro that I bought in September.
Yeah, video.
Maybe it's processor.
Video cards, too, are...
Video cards. For sure.
Yeah.
Hi, Lauren.
Video cards.
Ah, say hi, Lauren.
Hi, Laura.
I'm just in the...
Hi, Etienne.
It's Sunday.
Hey, man, you know, I'm actually hanging out today with Nick from, what is it, Urban Farmer Growing. This is my, hey, Nick, come over here, sit down for a minute. And he's the one that did, he does the secret session.
Oh, nice.
Seek the world. Yeah.
Right on, dude.
Mark is responsible for all the bubble hash in the world, in my opinion, or at least in North America.
All the bubble hash in North America. Hey, man, you trying to get me in trouble or something?
Hey, man, remember when everyone just knew you as Bubbleman and not Mark? Hey. I say Mark and people go, who? Bubbleman? Who? What's his alias? Mark? That can't be his real name.
Yeah, dude. I'm telling you, it's true. I love being able to use my real name.
I think it's all changing, man. K went from K to Kenny, so we're all evolved. Using a fake name. How crazy is that?
What's that?
You know, I never did that either, man. I never went, what the fuck would have been my fake name? I never had a porn name like you, Mark.
Yeah, I always had too funny a name. I never was able to think of something outside of that.
It didn't matter that you didn't have another name because no one could get your fucking name straight.
It sounds like his
Etienne, what? Yeah. Well, what these guys are doing is really great, man. You know, they're really bringing the culture together out here, and now they're doing it in Northern California like every Saturday, and it's pretty fantastic, actually. You know, we've never had nightclubs that we could go hang out at, and you know, not many of us really go out and drink and pound beers and do shots of whiskey and smoke cigarettes till 2 a.m. and then go home to our mommies. And this is a really nice example for us to kind of come out and hang out, and it's fantastic. I mean, I love the difference in what they're doing. Like, you go to a High Times event, they were never giving away food and water, ever.
everyone was hungry and thirsty. But these guys are giving away food and water at all their events. They're giving away dabs. They're giving away stuff. It's really fantastic. I mean, I think what you guys are doing is really providing a service. It's showing people culture, and it's giving people a way to actually meet with, you know, the hash makers and growers and actually connect.
Similar to what you guys are doing here, but in person.
Nice. And so, is it a free event, or do you just find out about it? Is it you pay for entry?
Yeah, it is paid entry.
Okay.
It's like everyone emails us and we'll verify their rec, and they'll sign up online, and we'll privately email them all back to invite them.
Right. Cool. So the vetting process happens kind of through Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you were to be a cop, you would have to have a really great Instagram persona set up to get by them. So, yeah, I think a lot of it is exactly that, though. You know, creating a peaceful community. You know, the overwhelming thing that blew me away is how many people are so polite. It's almost like saying "sir" is the new in thing.
I mean, the people help us clean up and set up, and without everyone in the community, we wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, it's really the companies that come out and everyone who supports that really makes it possible for the events to happen. So
yeah,
we appreciate everyone who comes out.
Everyone donates their time.
Yeah, it feels like a good vibe, Mark. I would almost compare it to an X Games feeling where everyone's working together, as opposed to the old school Cannabis Cup packed party house vibe where, you know, it was my team, your team, you know, we're a better seed company, your seed company sucks. It's that mentality is really changing, and it almost feels like there's more community coalescing. It's almost like saying "sir" is the new thing.
Without everyone.
All right, that was true.
Yeah, I gotta say, I've been to a couple of stores myself, and they're really amazing. The vibe is total chill. Everybody through there knows what they're doing. The quality of product that's there and available is top notch all around, and you know, there's freebies throughout. People are having a good time. Everyone's comparing glass. A lot of glass heads, some beautiful, amazing pieces. So they're doing great stuff there. I highly recommend it.
Awesome, very cool. I love that. I hope more stuff like that starts happening and growing. Hey, where can people find you on Instagram?
Urban Farmer Clothing. At Urban Farmer Clothing.
Yeah, that's Urban Farmer Clothing on Instagram.
Urban Farmer, what do you do? T-shirts and stuff?
Say that again?
Do you do T-shirts and stuff?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
So, like, I think maybe I got one sent from Urban Farmer.
Maybe.
Yeah, it was like a Rasta flag that said Urban Farmer. Yeah.
It wouldn't have been us now. But we'll send you some. We'd love to.
Good. Well, I'm stoked that you guys are doing what you're doing, and you definitely got the good right you to support what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate the support from you guys too, and I mean, just the spreading of the knowledge through things like this, and you know, you guys are leaders of the industry, so we appreciate the support.
Hell yeah. Vancouver needs a secret sessions.
How long have the sessions been going on now? It's been over a year now, hasn't it?
In LA, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in LA they have been. They just started doing them up here about 5 weeks ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, they did one here at my house.
Hey, welcome, Joshua.
Thank you, Mark.
How goes?
We had the secret sesh here about 3 weeks ago in our lovely backyard.
Wicked. That's a good spot to do it up.
Yes.
This is our house. The guy's on.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. Hey, man. I didn't realize.
They were having a big
Early
party
last night too.
Right on. Nice to meet you.
Bizarre Brothers in the house.
Yes.
That's fun.
Oh, wrong one.
I don't think anyone's seen the backyard in the daytime before.
No,
We're
really?
going to have a daytime party out here.
Sweet. That's the stuff right there. Also, having like people with good venues that are already sort of on point with that exact thing. Having people come by and puff tough.
Hey, so do we still have Tony? I would like to ask you guys, because now I'm organizing along with the THC Expo. We're doing the Cannabis World Championship, Mark. And this time around, the way I'm going to do it is more in line of the way we used to do. Can you go kill my phone? Oh, it's probably Lacey. Open the gate for it. Her remote wasn't working. Is really I want to do it blind so that people have a really good shot of competing. And I would be really open to hearing what entries and what we should have now, because that's really trying to do it honest and trying to do it so that it actually means something to the people is really my whole point. Any suggestions? People can email me at cwc@thcexpo.com. That's just CWC stands for Cannabis World Championship at thcexpo.com. I would love to hear what people think and what categories people would like to see, because it's really it's really about making a clean, fair contest. That's what I'd really like to accomplish.
I think that's awesome. When's the date that you have in mind?
June 20 and 21, Tony. Please come. And it's going to be at the Coliseum, the Los Angeles Coliseum. I some months and months ago, back actually last year, I was reading an article about how LA lost the rave scene to the what do you call it? How LA lost the rave scene to Las Vegas because some girl unfortunately passed away. So I actually wrote to my friend and production partner and I said, hey, see if you can get me the Coliseum to throw a cannabis party, and if not, let's produce a rave. So he wrote me back and said, well, good news is you do not have to produce a rave. So the Coliseum has been super on point and really helpful. It's managed by University of Southern California, so it's really the intellectuals. And, I'm embracing this as a holistic, if you will, cannabis event where it's not just about hash or not just about, hemp. It's really about the whole plant and everything that the plant provides us. It's really a celebration of the plant and the culture. We're going to have music going on throughout both days. We're going to have speakers. Ben Dronkers is coming out to do the Cannabis Culture Awards. Tommy Chong has agreed to accept the Cannabis Culture Award at the Coliseum. It's really fantastic. Everything's coming together super. The musical guests that we're confirming are spectacular too. I don't want to say it until, we may just wait and surprise people with who shows up, because it's going to be that dramatic, I think.
Yeah, I think, what kind of judging system are you going to have?
Well, what we're going to do is the way we used to do it at High Life. We're going to take the samples, split them up on the judges' packs, and then what we're going to do is provide them to our judges about 3 weeks in advance and allow them to have time with the samples to actually try to get to know them, sample them at different times, and really try to figure it out. They're all going to be numbered. None of the judges are going to know where any of it came from. There's not going to be any connection to it. They'll figure it out after they've judged it, because they're going to have to judge it before the THC Expo starts. So at the THC Expo, they'll be in the VIP area meeting the growers, meeting the hash makers, but only then will they realize what number the samples were and whose was what, and that'll be after they've judged it, after they voted, and there'll be no connection, So, and some of the people I'm using, Franco and Arian are going to be two of the judges. Ben Dronkers and his son Alan are going to be two of the judges. Kenny's going to be one of the judges. Etienne, who's sitting here, is going to be one of the judges. He was a purchaser at BPG before he became owner. And Vernon Phillips, who you know from Phillips RX, is going to be one of my judges as well. Truth be told, Tony, you'd be really useful to me too. We should talk off and see if you're interested in coming out.
I'd be interested in being a judge, absolutely.
Yeah, I really want to kind of bring intelligence to it, and this is where I think it's wrong to disqualify people after the fact. If you don't know what you're looking at, it's like having remorse on a cannabis purchase is so fucking 12-year-old, it's not funny. And if High Times can't look at a sample and figure out what it is before they put it in a race, they don't know what horses look like, and they shouldn't be running a horse race, in all honesty. Disqualifying the horse after the fact, to me, is just dumb. And and this is the kind of stuff I want to avoid. So, and I think that if we do it with a good panel of knowledgeable experts, Rob Clark is going to be one of the, Mel Frank is also one of the judges, and I'm trying to bring in people that have demonstratable experience with cannabis, that can actually judge it based on experience growing or blasting or hash sieving or what have you. In Rob's case, everything,
So that's what I'm trying to do with this now. And I don't think High Times has ever really approached it from such a serious perspective or tried to, in a way create a contest that was entirely fair. I don't think it was in their interest when they were trying to pander to their advertisers.
Yeah, I would be honored, man. I would love to be a part of that, especially with those other guys. I think when you put a panel like that together, and I'm friends with Frank and Ariane too. I think that that'd be great to talk offline, see all your categories and stuff. I'd be down for a lot of the medicinal categories like capsules or sublinguals or transdermals or even any of the concentrates.
It's harder to judge things like transdermals and topicals and such. So, right now it's cannabis, it's hash, and it's edibles. Because I also don't want to overtax the capabilities of the judges, and I want to also have an honest, go at. I mean, when you're talking new technology like transdermals, they provide a place in cancer wards that none of the other stuff can touch. I mean, if you're sitting there and you're really going through some wretched physical problems, and you can put a patch on that would deliver whatever milligram of THC or cannabinoid combination that would help you, that would be fantastic, So, but I don't think it's something people can really judge in a way, against another. If that makes sense. It's so medical at this point.
I agree. It's like this is this is my new transdermal. This is a 2 to 1 to 1 to 1. So think high inflammation, pain, and muscle spasm. Gel transdermal. It doesn't use DMSO or MSN, so it's an FDA-approved process already, and it's something that would be really hard to judge. The only way, that's why I was saying, when I see High Times trying to judge transdermals, it's like you kind of need a specialist to look at that and see what's up. So,
yeah, and in a way, I don't think it's fair, if you will, to someone that's trying to make something like that. And then how can you judge it when different combinations of cannabinoids would work for different medical conditions? And and in some ways, we're heading towards a recreational-based and an adult-based usage system. And we have wine tasting, wine contests, beer tasting. Like, this isn't new. But it's like approaching it from a professional angle and trying to look at it from a fresh standpoint is, I think, what the industry needs, because there's so much innovation right now, and the old dinosaurs that don't know what they're looking at, that have never grown pot or made hash, really aren't the best people to judge our products.
yeah, and I don't know what to do with a sex loop. Like, I can understand if I was a female judge or like this, like what am I supposed to do with that? For you, I'm supposed to go in the bathroom and jerk off with this lube and then like wait to get high? Like, I don't think so, man. I could smoke 3,000 grams a day. I don't think that lube's me sitting in the bathroom for 3 hours with sex lubes. I'm going to be a good judge at that.
That took a left turn really fast.
He went there. He really went there.
Well, I saw it, dude. People are entering that shit. I'm like, how are you supposed to judge that? You're supposed to go home, like female or male. You're supposed to go home and like figure out a way to judge it.
Well, there you have it. The High Times competition in a bathroom's a euphemism.
If you involve an animal, you get disqualified.
Masturbation.
It's true. That shit ain't peanut butter, motherfuckers.
So I had a lot of Facebook questions. So let's switch that direction. I had a lot of Facebook people hitting me up about Jamaica and the grill and how we're supposed to have like the ultimate smoke out. So besides Legends and the Cup, we should have another gathering that is like how we used to do old school drum circles. Just have a huge gathering of a smoke out that we can do for Hash Church, or maybe like a 420 Hash Church or something cool, because there's a lot of people hitting me up. They want to be a part of it. They're already booking tickets to be there at that time. So perhaps we should organize ourselves for like another, huge social gathering, something cool.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a good idea. I mean, Hash Church seems to be a great way for us to gather, and I mean, if we were to have a huge gathering and do a live stream of it, that would be pretty darn cool. Unique way of sharing.
I think you could probably get, 1,000 plus gathered together. From what I'm gathering online, there's just overwhelming amount of people traveling there.
Oh, I know, it's unbelievable, dude. I'm really trying desperately to put this tour together so I can go at the end of June, June 21st to 29th is potentially the first inaugural Bubbleman tour down there, and I want to just kind of do it, kind of figure out what the bumps are, and make a real good one for the High Times event. I know High Times has their own tour company, but I still did speak to them and just, I mean, I'm not going to be sharing every hotel I have with them if we're somehow not, you know, linked up. I got to keep, that shit's golden right there, the connect.
Yeah, bro, you've got like every kind of connection. I did a Bubbleman's World Tour with you, and it was like, I mean, if we had more time, I could only imagine how cool that would have been. And that's where that whole, your first thing was like, hey, you know, we were talking at the was it Natural? The restaurant you took me to, the Natural?
Yeah, just Natural.
Just Natural. We're sitting there, and I'm like, man, you should do this for other people. And you're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, this has been a really cool adventure. Like, do this for other people that want to, like, get Ital food and drinks and go on these crazy adventures, the beach, castles. Dude, you are nuts. This guy, just so you know out there in Hastert, this guy, he goes, hey, we're going to go to this castle. And I kid you not. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, we're going to go to this castle on the beach. And we go to this castle, and the guy in the front answers the door, and he's like, there's no way you're getting in here, essentially. And Bubbleman's, oh, yeah, my friend Bob, who's staying here, or David or whatever his name, he's staying here. We're coming to see him. And the guy goes, there's nobody named there, nobody named here that. And you go, but you're a security guy. How would you know that? Do you know everyone that's staying here? And he looked at you like as if he knew everyone that was staying there. And we didn't understand what he was talking about until we actually got through the gate. Somehow you convince this guy that your friend is at this hotel. Well, we get there, and nobody's at the castle. There's not even a soul staying at the castle. There's no people staying there. So that's why he knew your friend wasn't there. But he let you in anyway. And so you go directly to like the most dangerous spot, down the stairs, off to the edge. And I'm like trying to follow you around with this camera. And we just start busting out cameras, filming everything. We go down to this other cave. And about the second time, you're like, hey, this is Bubbleman. I'm down here in this cave. The security guy goes, hey, where's your friend? Where's your friend? And he was getting all mad. And essentially, you like sweet talked him there. And then on our way out, you were like trying to sign in as a guest, and you signed in a different name. And then he lost the page. It went flying. It was like this whole ordeal. And you left, and I was like, oh my God, dude. It was like hilarious.
That's Jamaica in a nutshell, though, dude. That's why I love Jamaica.
Yeah, I think that, but all the spots you took us all to was really good, and I think that I think people would have fun, especially if you do that kind of a tour, and then the things that we did, the adventures going out in the middle of nowhere to the fields. Like, people need to hike a couple miles into Jamaica and like really experience the thick of it just to see those fields, you know?
True enough.
Those fields were amazing.
Yeah,
And
Johnny was smiling ear to ear.
I smiled in Amsterdam, I smiled in Barcelona, I smiled in Jamaica. All three of us, dude, the last three years, we've been in all adventures with one another. It's been amazing. I met so many people just through, yeah, I mean, it's been epic, and Jamaica is just another one of those great places that I've experienced with you guys. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I think that's your calling, Mark. The Bubbleman World Tour. Everywhere you go, people should be able to get together, because there's a lot of people that are looking up to you, and this Hash Church inspires them and things, but essentially everybody wants to sesh and hang out, and it's really hard to do when you have like thousands of people doing that. So utilizing the Negril Cup and having like a huge Hash Church gathering so everybody can sesh, and then doing a Bubbleman's World Tour, I think that's a really cool idea, and I look forward to seeing how those work out, you know?
Yep, thumbs up, man. They're definitely, I've been on them already. Thank you for the introduction to the Bubbleman World Tours, because we're definitely part of it. We've seen
thank you very much
we
for
know
doing it too.
Yeah, I think it's slow but sure. I like the idea of doing a larger gathering other than the Legends, because Legends ends up being so private and small. Even if we do it twice the size and make it 100 people, doing an event where everyone can come and there's not really a cost. It's just come on out and gather, and we'll have an incredible session. All right, Todd. Thanks for coming out, buddy.
Oh, it was nice being on, everybody. I just want to say have a happy Sunday. Thanks again for doing this, Mark. I think it's fantastic.
Hell
Send
yeah.
love. And I'll see you next Sunday.
Yes, absolutely. You guys have a great Sunday.
All right, bye, everybody.
And I'm talking about a beautiful Sunday. Hostels in the grill. I'm not sure about hostels in the grill, but there's got to be some. I've never really stayed in a hostel in the grill. I guess I should answer some questions in the chat. People are asking about aeroponics. People are talking about Jamaica. When's the cup? That's November 12th to 15th.
I used to do some aeroponics.
Bring your QP of hash. Wow, QP of hash to Legends? I've never heard of such a thing. That's a lot.
QP to hash.
I mean, great if you have it. QP of hash, yeah. And if you want to, you're going to get laughed out unless you have a full 10-pack of full melt 90 micron stamped and sealed.
Nerve or inflammation pain. It's really, really good.
That's Legends 2037.
20, 30 gram limit.
Yeah.
How did he add the terpenes to his rosin? How did he add the terpenes to his rosin?
I went like this. Here's rosin. Here's a drop. I put a drop on the rosin. I took my tool and spread it around. That's it.
Secret tech.
Secret tech. I mean, you could also put a bunch into a little. I was going to put it into the glass jar, and then I was going to do like 2 grams of the clear rosin inside here with 1 drop, and just whip it and mix it. But everybody here just tried a side by side to see what they thought, and they thought the terp side was smoother. That's the part that's used up more, and this is the part that is non-terp. That's always a good sign, and that's kind of like your same philosophy at Legends when you guys all sit there for 3 hours. What hash is it?
Which terp are you using?
The one that I used here was a Etienne, Chem 91, and Jilly all in one.
That's a flavor profile.
No, it was like a real citrusy Chem 90, like a Chem, right?
Yeah, that was the first thing.
First thing you smelled was the Chem, Jilly, and then the
And then
orange.
they had those in the background, but the first thing that stood out.
Yeah, the Chem stood out the most, which was interesting. Yeah, you're right. It first hits Chem 91 right away, and then the citrus. Yeah.
After effect.
I'm going to have some Harlequin terps, because this is actually something that, this would be an interesting conversation. I'm going to actually take the Harlequin terps, and I'm going to start with Harlequin because it's easily used, but I've got some friends in California with Project CBD that we're working on a little something with this project, but I want to compare the profile of the flower Harlequin and the profile of the terpenes and see what's actually in there, and then I'd like to do a proton NMR on this as well and start to break down, because I'm wondering, this is kind of a hypothetical situation, no evidence at all yet, it's just something that I think is being suggested, but imagine you could capture the modulation effects of these CBD strains, apply them to pure THC, and still get the medical benefits out of it.
Dude, 100%. I think the fact that people are so focused on CBD and not the actual profile of terpenes that comes along with those strains, you fucking nailed it, bro, 100%.
So I'll let you know how that goes, because if I can take the modulation effects of Harlequin or AC/DC or what's happening, because I noticed like that's like the whole basis of prana. Not only is it's a pure plant profile, but it utilizes specific terpene profiles in the P1, 2, 3, and 4 that are acting as modulators. And so we've talked about this, and now I'm more interested in this extraction process for that, because if we could get a pure 95% solvent-free resin, that doesn't have any cut, and we add the modulating effect of the CBD properties and can still have the medical application, then it gets real interesting. And so that's one thing that we didn't get to discuss with our meeting Friday with CRD, but I think that when we get into our preclinicals here soon and we start doing that, you and I will be able to really see those effects, especially when we start these rodent safety trials and things. This will be a side project that we'll be doing at the same time. So when people ask us, what does CRD do? Well, exactly this. We're going to find out and explore every medical, scientific research possibility with the plant. And so it's going to get interesting, and I think it's going to get really cool because we're going to find some things out, and then eventually that information is all public and published, and everybody can read about it, and everybody can study it. And then those people that are smart in their homes can figure out how to utilize that technology. And then the rest of that medicine will be produced for the masses to be able to access. Accessibility to it,
Yeah, further unveiling of the information. This is exactly what cannabinoid research and development is all about. Hey, welcome, Mike West. You're muted out. We cannot hear you. He's like, wait a second. Let me try to unmute myself here.
Are you using Chrome?
Oh yeah, are you using Chrome? Good question. Good question. Well, Mike will figure out his logistics. He always does.
Almost silence or a bong rip.
Ah, yes, take a bong rip. You've got the egg there. I'll take an egg rip. I know Etienne's going to grab his egg. It's a whole 3 feet away. Just grab it, bro. All right.
I got a question for Tony while everyone's taking a bomb rip. Tony, I've tried isolating the terps from a few CBD strains that I've come across. What would you say about establishing protocols that you could implement to growers in the finaling of their plants when, in my case, I'm dealing with different people and trying to negotiate the live plant? So I've dealt with CBD strains dry, but I did get a 1/4 pound of wet material, and the terp water was, it was the usual delicious in a cherry sense, but you must have some standards that you take for granted that I can't get out of the average grower that seems to up and down my experience to become a waste of time when I need it the most.
I do. That's a good question. This is really important. So, if you study echinacea and how they actually flush echinacea and how they extract it for medicine, you'll find that these larger grows will do a special type of flushing technique. And that flushing technique is something that they do where they'll, and I kind of explained this to a few other people, if you were in your last 3 flushes, you would flush, wait, flush, you would flush on day 1, flush on day 3 or 4, flush on day 7 to 10, and you're out. What they do with echinacea is you go in your flushing cycle, and instead of flushing the plant on the last 2 times the day you're supposed to, they actually wait for the plant to wilt over, almost like it's dead. And then they flush it, and then the plant comes back, and then they flush it again and after they wait for it to wilt 1 more time. And the process for that is to push everything out of the plant. One other reason for that is to get an even type of disbursement among your trichome heads. So if things were clear, milky, and a little bit of amber, when you're doing this flush technique, you're actually pushing everything out of the plant. The plant thinks it's dying twice. It's basically going to maximize the head size. It's going to maximize the potency. It's going to standardize the consistency, and ultimately you want to try to get under 50 parts per million before you harvest. And so that's a way to do that little type of technique. When you're doing that, you want to take the plant fresh, take the fan leaves off, you cut the buds right into a vac sealed bag or a turkey bag, immediately off the plant into a bag, and then you freeze that. You know, you want to get into -10, 20, but you don't want to go to -50, because -50 is going to turn it into powder. And so you just want to keep it in a cold state. I do flash freezing on site sometimes, but that's insane, and that you can't do that in production. But you could use a large cooler, dry ice, alcohol, bag the plant, flash freeze it before you have to take it to a bigger freezer. And so if you do that within 15 minutes and you properly flush everything out of the plant, you do what I just said, you'll get a really, really, really clean product. If you cut the plant off early and it has 200 parts per million in it, and then you let it dry out and age, and then try to do extractions on it, you'll have a very, very different and perverse effect and coloration on it. So when people say, how do you get it clear, or how do you get it the colors that you do, a lot has to do with the flushing, and a lot has to do in the time period that you take it. If you cut your plant off and it's fresh and you lay it on a tray for 8 hours or 12 hours and then freeze it, totally different. So I found that when doing the terpene extraction, you know, you want to do everything as fresh as possible.
Well, obviously the fresh as possible part that's not the issue. I looked at some anecdotes. I've accumulated anecdotes. So some growers, I do 12 hours of dark, then I harvest. And then there are other people that are like, are you coming over? I'm harvesting. And I'm like, no. There should be an appropriate time. And
I do 24 hours of darkness preferred, that last flush too. I forgot to say that.
Okay, because yeah, that goes with all kinds of other plants. The one question, I guess, because we're both heading in aquatic environment situation, is in the case of my deep water culture, which I'm going into because I want that root mass for harvesting as well. How would I wilt? Well, no, I would just empty the system, because yeah, without that wilt, you don't get that stress and that uptake, and that in humans, there's a chemical we put out when we're dying, and it tells the body to use up all the resources, and you're putting the plant through the same situation. So I totally see that. How I get growers that are not under my directive to obey those operatives is going to be tough. But the 12 hours, one of the anecdotes that always comes out of the best growers, the ones that produce the results, but they also seem to grow the least amount of strains.
Everyone disappeared?
I think Bubbleman did. Is everyone still there?
I'm just eating for 5 more minutes.
Well, and also, the other thing is, like, the plant health is extremely important. If the plant ever had any fungus, bugs, any kind of overwatering, underwatering, burning, I mean, there's all kinds of things that go into it. Lockout of nutrients. Sometimes it's okay if a plant stresses out a little bit during a certain time for a certain reason. You'll see a lot of growers will intentionally stress their plants in certain ways, and I gave you an idea of that in the flush period, but there are certain things that really good growers will do in that process. And then it all comes back down to light spectrum versus the medium, and the medium which you're growing, and the nutrients you're using. So the best stuff I've seen, honestly, is under the sun resin, everything organic. I just left one of the spots in California. The soil was 5 years old. There wasn't anything wrong with any leaf, with any plant, with anything. Beautiful, gorgeous. So I'm a fan of sun resin over indoor all day. You know, so that's just me.
Hey, as in for me, when I got a really, really sick plant, I put it outside and it gets healthy. That's its best spot for it. That's where it wants to be. That's where it wants to be.
You agree with that, don't you, Tony?
Anything that you ever had sick indoor and you put it outside where the climate's right, comes right back.
Bugs, anything. Throw it out. Like right now, it's at that season where everything can start going outside, and it's just nice to be able to put the plants outside, get them all nice and healthy, get some nice healthy cuts, and just it's that time of year here in the Pacific Northwest. Coming up May long weekend. Planting season is in. Get ready. It's beautiful outside, still a little cold.
What always amazes me is the nodal structure that if you grow under the sun, how tight your nodal structure of your flower and plant is. Whereas indoors, if you move your light too far up, the stretching and elongation that will actually happen. Rather fascinating, isn't it? Considering that ball is how many millions of miles away in the sky, but yet I move my light a foot out of the optimum light, source that the plant wants, and it stretches to elongate. But somehow we can rotate on this planet throughout the cycles, and the nodal structure stays tight with the actual sun.
Hey, welcome, Jeff Church. I see you sitting in the room there. You came in a bit ago, and I never said welcome. I think Mike's still trying to get his mic working. You're also on mute. I can't hear you, but
good to see y'all. I've been sick, fighting a sinus infection, so I'm feeling a little under the weather, but I figured I'd pop in here and see how y'all were doing.
Ah, shit. Well, we hope you're feeling better sooner than later, brother. Doing pretty good. Got 650 people hanging out and watching Hash Church this morning. It's a pretty beautiful day here in BC, British Columbia. Nice blue sky. Water looks like I should be on.
Looks like I need to do yard work. Damn.
Yard work. No thanks. I think I'd rather...
Yard work, catch wildcat, take it in to get fixed, grab her 6 kittens. I got it all set up. This afternoon is giving away cats, dabbing. I'm seeing Remo, seeing Zan. I'm seeing a few different people who are all getting cats today, so that will probably show up on my Facebook. But yeah, it's going to be a nice afternoon of giving some happy homes to these kitties. And of course, dabbing with friends and talking about Rosin. I got some people who want to learn about it, so I'm going to be doing some demonstrations later on this afternoon to some friends that really want to learn it more. So that's kind of cool. All in a day of Sunday, enjoying and educating.
Lull in the conversation, take 1.
Take 1. There we go. I can do that. A little dabaroo. Maybe I'll just clean up this little bit of bubs that's fallen onto my my oil slick sheet or pad. I do appreciate that nectar collector. Just it's its own unique little thing, that is for sure. Definitely not like I would hit it as my daily driver, but I have to say I grab for it every once in a while. I know Horatio was definitely surprised by the nectar collector the first time we gave it to Flav, and he just like did this giant line of Horatio's distillate product, his clear like product of delimonene that he went and
You put it on that glass plate, and I'm like, what's going on? Why is everything being served up in strips? And they're like, oh, we're gonna hit a nectar collector, buddy. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's going down so smooth. I'll just and I just started drawing on it and chasing the oil all over the place. And yeah, it has that factor if you keep it on your desk.
Yeah, it's completely insane. Hey, what's happening, Horatio? What's happening? This is not right.
What?
Well, when you first saw Flav do that, you were like, is he going to do the whole line? He's doing the whole line.
Well, you know, it just looked way big. Everybody did it. Even I did it. I was like, how come I can do way more than a dab, and I'm just vacuum cleaning this shit up? It's dangerous.
I realized, man, I was having the same issue trying to log on from my iPad.
Where did that come from?
Remember.
That's trippy. Like, what the heck? We got shit restarting over here. Trying to keep up with the chat, too. There's lots of people chatting, of course, at any given time. In chat. Sunday. This is what you do. I hope people are picking up little things here and there, nonetheless. It's not always easy discovering gems, but sometimes if the dialogue is good and the conversations move favorably, we can uncover some pretty good little nuggets of information.
I'm gonna do a straight terp dab.
Oh.
Ken's got a little dabadoo over here. I put it on a little bit of oil slick paper. And by the way, that is also what I like to use the oil slick for. It makes it's a good way to preserve the rosin and things like that. But when I mix it, I don't necessarily like to put the terps with the paper. I do like to mix the rosin and the terps in the oil slick paper because it's resistant to that paper, and then you can mix it up and whip it up pretty good, and it doesn't like seek into the paper. So in honor of Hash Church today, after Ken's done here, let me do it on that one. That big thing.
The holy sign.
The holy sign for Hash Church.
Can hear you now, Mike. Oh, he left. I could hear him that time. Derbs.
That'd be so fun.
Yeah, do this. We're gonna do one of these. I'm gonna do a terp dab on this.
I would like to see South Park make fun of our dab culture. I think that would be a fucking pretty funny episode.
Yeah, I mean, you know the Trailer Park Boys. After I did that coin, like 3 years ago, and then now when they see my coin, they're like, "Oh, Trailer Park Boys." I still haven't even seen the episode of what they're talking about, but I do know that it went wildfire a long time ago, and then next thing I knew, they had some kind of hash coin that they were talking about. So that was kind of cool to see the coin go into a Trailer Park Boys situation.
Yeah, that's season 2, episode 1, Ricky Hash Coins.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but that's what people tell me.
They also had a hash driveway in one season where they stole all this hash and then they paved their whole driveway with it. Dude, did you see Ricky on the driveway, like with the blowtorch, just taking rips of the driveway?
It was so funny. That one I definitely saw.
That is so fucking ridiculous, bro.
All right, I'm gonna do a terp dab.
Sip this little one.
All right, I'm matching you up, Tony, with some train wreck. It's.
Oh, look at this. Horatio's gonna do one too.
Horatio,
Alright, I'll do one too.
I was gonna say I got some of your lobster butter right here. I'm gonna dip it in some dry sift and some bubble, and then top it off with some rosin.
Well, we're all gonna hit pure terps.
I don't have terps, as close as I got.
That's close enough.
It is close enough.
My lungs are too hash for taking pure terp hits, so I'm gonna smell some pure terps over here.
This all THC decarboxylated. Look at this stuff, guys. It's crazy, and it's pretty epic. Thanks, Horatio. Then you do a little dip into some dry sifts.
Really, really, really.
There you go. Pop it off with
How the fuck is it not working?
Back in the rosin.
Woo! Wow.
Turf dabs all around.
Ridiculous.
I feel like it fills your lungs really quick.
Was that harsh?
No, it wasn't harsh, but it definitely fills your lungs like.
Feels like it does.
Yeah. Chemist.
My lips are just coated. Wow. Coated with the terps.
Your head? So overall, they like the taste, not harsh, and it rings their head. So, like I said, there's a lot more to explore with what's actually in here. And I think the process of terpene extractions, like Horatio has his way, I have my way, Kay has his way. Everybody has a different way, and it might be doing different things. It might be pulling different things from the plant.
Guaranteed it is.
I'm so excited to get the lab started and the built out in Jamaica to be able to do this with you and the team that we're putting together, because I think we're going to find a lot of answers soon.
I can't wait.
We got every piece of gear at our fingertip possible to study this.
Awesome.
The one piece of equipment that we didn't talk about yet was that mass spec and the proton NMR all in one. That,
right.
you know, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be real interesting to get that in combination with their HPLCs for testing purposes.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely sounded like a unique combination. The way they explained it was that someone locally on the campus had, like, basically...
The chemistry professor, the guy that was the dean of the chemistry department.
He just hacked it out.
We can see everything. We can see if it's being decarboxylated. Mass spec can tell us all terps, where the HPLC can give us all the different ratios on the different decarboxylation ratios. The mass spec is awesome with terpenes profiling and stuff like that. And the NMR, I'm learning more about it. It's going to be sweet. It's like what we've all dreamt about what I have.
Terps get you stoned.
So what did Horatio put out? I actually didn't see the video. Ken was telling me that Horatio put out a terp video of some kind. That's my question to you, Horatio, because you always have questions to me. What did you put out on the internet?
Well, we put out a little talk where, you know, we sipped a carbonated terp champagne, and we did an LHO extraction, and I talked about the purification of terpenes and the difference between emulating me and going out and getting food-grade terpenes versus what I'm uniquely able to isolate out, and the unknowns of what that represents, because the frequency of terpenes, when you get to the final limonene I'm using, it starts to become something more indistinguishable from cannabis, where if you get 95% or 97% grade, which are the grades I've dealt with in the past, you still get such a wide spectrum of ketones and aldehydes of limonene and of other citric terpenes that are present in the extracted material. It's the same kind of condition where no matter how pure of the fuel, other things are constantly boiling out at that same temperature, and they're constantly going with and going with. And it's actually about isolating them so they don't distill with the limonene when I'm cleaning it up, because I have to clean it up from Mr. Oil and everything else. And we go into...
Sorry, you said you clean that?
Yeah.
Dude, you got to see the video, Tony. It's on Bubbleman's World. Let me send you the link.
Send me the link. Because Ken's been talking about it. He's like, I can't believe you didn't see this yet. I'm like, bro, I've been so busy. I
He
didn't
cleans his solvent, like Bruce did.
Okay.
Like what he takes out of it is disgusting.
I want to see that. This is really cool.
The inner sanctum.
Yeah, I want to see. This is really cool.
It was a very good video. Very good video.
You're just behind the times, Tony. Your Hash Church will catch you up, but
My church will catch you up.
You know it's a good show. No, honestly, you know it's a good show when a panel can catch you up on Sundays and you only miss a week. I mean, you know, it's good. It's a good show when you can rely on the group. This is the link here.
Yeah, this went up in your defense just in a time that you were so ridiculously busy. It was April 18th. I put that video up. So
yeah, okay.
So it makes sense you didn't see it, but 10,000 people have seen it.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it right here. I think that's good though, because that's how people.
Dude, just go to 10 minutes and just put it on pause at like 10 minutes.
Okay.
And you'll see what he's talking about. He's got two big clear jugs, one on the left and one on the right. And right in the middle, he's got this fraction of like an orangish to darker reddish colored material. Hey, we can hear you, Mike.
Oh, wow, I see it.
Yeah, so I think the one on the left is the one he cleaned the thing out of the middle from, and then the one by me might be the pure, or vice versa. Horatio would remember better.
Is this in Horatio's place?
Yeah, this is his lab.
I like how he has the fire extinguisher off to the right.
This is the video that we filmed, and then I sent you the text saying, "Dude, Horatio just turned me on to Terpene champagne. You have terpenes. You should do this with all your VIP guests in Denver."
God.
Because the video starts with Horatio pulling out some champagne glasses or martini glasses, and he pours some carbonated water infused with pure terpenes, and we start the video sitting there sipping terpene champagne.
4 people actually don't like it.
Well, there's at least a half a dozen to a dozen that follow me around, and they hate. It's okay.
I can't believe you don't like that video. Okay, it's only the most.
Well, 354 liked it, so
Yeah.
he's doing okay.
Well, you see, Tony, when you can see something that looks pure and clear, and then I can pull that out of it and then produce something that's pure and clear, there are a lot of illusions. That's why I'm most scared of everyone thinking they can jump in and add terpenes to things. Because even when you add that citrus to the tube, that red stuff is there. And it's in the product, and you can't see it because it'll never turn red.
Yeah, it's trippy that he got orange out of clear and then got clear again.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's a fun video. We had fun making that video. Horatio is potentially like, he made filming the video pretty damn easy. He had everything all set up to be just like, okay, we're going to film the first sequence here, then we're going over here, we're going to answer some questions, we're going to go back over here, and then we'll do this, and boom, we'll finish it off. I was like, fuck, damn, dude, do you want to film it and edit it too? Because that was helpful.
I was like, the video edits itself.
Yeah, you did say that.
I'm gonna have to watch it, see what this man's up to.
Yeah, it's a long one, Tony, but it's probably worthwhile for you to at least have it on so you can hear it.
Oh, I'm gonna watch the whole thing.
It was strong.
You know that.
You'll watch it a few times. I'm second.
Horatio. And so that's not supposed to have any THC in it, but that makes you feel kind of crazy.
Yes.
Yes. See, I had a tooth pulled a few days ago. It was sore a little bit.
Now it's not?
No, after I took that, it was.
Only after the terp dab,
yeah,
your tooth went away?
Because I took some ibuprofen this morning, and
Didn't
the
work.
spot's still a little bit sore, and it was starting to wear off. And then as soon as I took that, instant.
He's claiming that his tooth situation is gone from smoking the dab of terps. Maybe I'm not correcting terps.
Well, he's already got THC in his system, so whatever's in your system gets modulated at the same time as the dab, or post-dab.
So that's interesting. So that's really interesting. So you could have microdoses or small amounts. Maybe that's why that Prana drop works so well, because I'm having terps in there, and they're expressing that 2 milligrams as if it's a 10 milligram, as an example. Because I see what you're saying. It's interesting.
Well, it's the same way I use cinnamon and liquid gummer to when I used to make. That's how I make my sublingual, and those terpenes allow the cannabis to along with the coconut oil, allow it to pass the gums, but those terps also allow it to go into the blood, and the effects come on. There's an effect that comes on within 20 minutes, and it accelerates basically the same thing, bypassing the liver. I'm using terpenes to do that and get the effect into the system.
Yeah, it's an accelerator. That's why those terpenes. That's why the product drops are so effective.
Well, you literally could have somebody on an edible dose over their 6 hours, and then if they have an acute situation, grab the terpene that would represent the strain that used to be known for those effects. So you literally could have a train wreck fix by just modulating the THC that's already present in your system.
And I could do that with CBD then too, or anything.
Well, that's totally why it's not even experimental. I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to do more CBD. That's why I asked the growing condition. I'm like, how can I fix these growers? Because that would be critical. If I can isolate that and have that on hand, I can give somebody that. Remember we talked about that greening out pen solution? How could we stop people from panicking at these events and going to the hospital? It would be a combination of those CBD terpenes and CBD isolate in that vape pen.
So, that's pretty interesting. Because I'm getting...
Yeah, really interesting thing about the cinnamon, when you mentioned that, that's also one of the ingredients in the holy anointing oil. You've got cinnamon, cassia, cannabis, myrrh, and olive oil. And that's the old biblical recipe for the holy anointing oil that today it cures MRSA and gangrene and all kinds of things. And it's really that cinnamon and those terpenes that are in there allow for it to just get right in through any membrane and help that locally affected area that you apply it to.
Well, Jeff, that's literally, somebody asked me, well, can I make your decarboxylated LHO into a sublingual? And I'm like, I just haven't had enough to go back to that and really decide on one cinnamon product and even try to clean it if I have to get it, you know, to what I want it to be if it wants to be pharmaceutical grade. So I would have to treat it like I treat limonene. That's why I've been afraid to do it in the public, but that's what I've done in the past for myself and others. But I think if we can get cleanly cinnamon, that's like really clean the same way I'm looking at it, and those other ingredients, that was my version of whatever Tony's doing to produce for the Canadian market.
I think in a short time soon you have a good opportunity, my friend. I do. But,
one question I did have: do I need to put in a crop in Jamaica? Because I can have that done for me for high times right now. Is this about time to plant? Because I thought maybe.
Yeah, if you were worried about, if you wanted to do that, but yeah, if you're worried about that, yeah, do that. But
be a good safety net in the least.
It'd be a good safety net. It'd be a good safety net.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of dry sift screens on hand in Jamaica in November, so getting a kit and throwing down live won't be a problem.
The dry sift screens won't be the problem in Jamaica. The thing will be the walk-in freezer.
That'll be the hookup, but we're going to be at some pretty sick hotels, so I'm a pretty good
dude.
Yeah, it's like 1,000,000 degrees there. But besides that, yeah, you know, I definitely think Bubbleman probably has home field advantage. That's all I can say. Because, you know, he's got resources, he's got material, he's got other things that'll be there for him. But I do think that's a long time away, and a lot of things can happen from now until then. And so there's going to be some more exciting things to come that you'll be able to get involved in. Besides, like high times is like the least of my concern, to be honest with you, for Jamaica. The lowest priority, It's a fun priority, but it's definitely the lowest.
Dun 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 dun.
I know what that means.
That's why I wanted to add the music.
We're going to be able to do some really fun stuff here very shortly. The next 30 days is going to change some things. So I think you'll probably read it before you're in Canada doing it.
Dude, I'll tell you, my friend from Jamaica sent me a picture the other day holding like a half pound. Did you see the new thing that they mentioned about the half pound? My buddy had the biggest fucking smile on his face, and he's holding a half pound of weed in a bag, and I was like, man, this is a really big deal for local people.
Ticket starts at a half pound.
What's that?
A ticket at a half pound. Just a ticket. It's just like a $50 or $100 ticket. Okay. Well, I mean, 200 grams a half.
It sure beats the alternative of being smashed over the head and murdered.
Yeah. To say the least.
Because that was the previous law.
Yeah. Like it.
It's fucked up. Yeah, I'm just so excited for Jamaica.
Well, in November it's going to be 80 degrees, but no humidity. It's going to be dry. Well, I would say no humidity. It's just really dry. You don't sweat. So it's going to make a really, really good hat. That's the one time of the year that's like a better time.
Yeah, when it's got that cool. Listen, here's the advantage, and I'll say it right here on Hash Church for all to hear. The advantage will be going during the right time of year, which is definitely October, November, and more importantly, if you're trying for dry sift and you don't have access to the right spots, the mountains at night. If you can get into the Blue Mountains, which is quite a distance away, could be like 5-hour drive from like Negril to get up at near Honeyville and New Haven or whatever, Newcastle, up by the where we stayed that time. That gets cool in the night during that time of year.
Through there? I just had a burn on one of my pipes.
A what?
It flew out of it? I don't know. I knew some shit was going on. I got this whole deal. Let me show you guys. This is totally not anything to do with hash. Let me show you what's going on. I keep finding these weird spots on the floor. And I'm like, what the hell is this shit? Let me show you. Look at this on the balcony. So we're out here on the balcony, and you look down at the floor. See all this weird, let me see if you can see all those weird gray spots?
Yeah.
It's like a weird, like, it looked like laundry lint balls, right? And then it's all over the place. And then I've got this, like, basket stuff that's, like, that's missing out of my planters. And now I see why. See, look up here. That's my exhaust for my laundry. And birds are flying in there right now.
And nesting in there.
Oh, and there's a cat right above there. What is going on out here?
Is this the penthouse experience you paid for?
Sounds like nature's going on, man. Nature at its finest.
Look, they're stealing this. I was about to plant. Look, they're stealing this bedding.
Nest.
Out of the planters. I bet, they're probably going, wow, we're 16 stories up. We don't even have to go to the bushes down there anymore. We're just going to steal this guy's bedding and his lint right out of his dryer. They must be flying in there. Down those tubes, they're up there. Look at them up on the ceiling. They're flying into the house, into the ducts, right through there.
Maybe you need a little screen on the front of those things.
Yeah, you got to get a screen, otherwise that bird shit inside there is gonna start stanking, and it'll also eat up that metal.
Jesus. Hey, babe, we got birds up in our shit.
You know what? Right there.
Oh shit!
That's how you become happy that you're renting and that you don't own.
Exactly.
Congratulations, Tony. You have a menagerie.
Yeah, now I know what's going on out there. That was crazy that you saw that. Yeah, Brendan was like, hey, I just saw a bird fly right into your house, but he was like, where did it go? It was like perfectly dive bombed right into the tube.
You're
Trippy.
trying to get secondary hash hits off you. That's what it is.
They smell the terps.
That's awesome.
The terp chirp.
I think I have to do another dab, but I'm really stoned.
Yeah, how stoned are you from that?
Really stoned.
So, Horatio, we had an accelerator enter all of our bodies and put us on another planet. The terp, that makes a lot of sense, is what I'm saying. The terps are the terps are accelerating our stored THC in our fat cells, if you will.
You terpelated your cannabinoid profile.
Yes, very, very true. I can attest to that.
He's like, I want to smoke, but
I was wondering, like, I took like 15 dabs in a row or something, and I was fine, and then all of a sudden I take that one terp dab. I'm really stoned now. But I feel like I have to take another one. Just balance it out, right?
So a lot of people out there think, oh, you know, they watch Hash Church and there's a bunch of stoners here. But ultimately, that leads to a very unique discovery down the road that we'll be able to use terpenes, as we've been talking about, as modulators for medicinal purposes. And that's what everybody's missing. You know, they're associating that with taste or flavor, but those are really other things going on. There's a lot of medicinal value to it. I'm 100% convinced.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, come on. I mean, to say terpenes and we know their medicinal value from everything else that's good in life. It's what our nose, this whole part of our face is meant for.
They call them essential oils.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
essential oils are.
but one of the things I'm hoping the proton NMR can do is prove when we have a medicinal match for the type of terpenes that cannabis is producing, when it's a true molecule match versus a lookalike and a bastard, a damaged version of it. Because, for instance, we're dabbing our version of what we think are the lightest, most valuable terps. But as you go across the terp spectrum, I won't do the same dab of D-limonene. It will destroy my chest. And whether that's the limonene or it's that micro amount of contaminant, I don't know yet. But it would open up the field to, if we can produce clean, pure molecules, then we really could produce on a larger scale, because not everyone's going to produce the amount of terpenes we need to match the amount of THC that's out there. But if we could clean molecules up and group them, then we could do something on a really large scale.
Well, these are the exciting projects that we'll be able to start experimenting and playing around with as we grow the company.
We're all dreaming of the future right now, and everyone's silent.
It's a good future to dream of. It's
a lot of work, a lot of work.
Well, look what everyone's playing with in the present. So someone's going to come along and listening to what you guys are doing and playing with, and then they're going to be like, hey, wait a second, and they're going to push the envelope to a whole other level. And like we all have, everyone here is done something to push cannabis along in one way, shape, or form. So it's only going to continue to spread. So that's the exciting thing, is not only what's happening now, but the constant that's always happening with the change.
Yeah, I think Horatio, you've got it right. You know, that's really the holy grail for me, is to be able to take a profile from a plant and extract those terpenes and have them be the same exact terpenes, not changed. And I think that's the one thing that pretty much every method that I've come across leaves a little bit of lacking in, is that it changes the molecules. You can't get them all out. You could splice off the highly volatile ones, but if you're going to get all of the terpenes from the plant, splicing them off, it's just difficult. We need some better extraction methods for sure.
Yeah, in the early days of talking with Kay about terpene extraction, before it was really public that he was doing it, before he posted the pictures or any of that, this goes back a ways back, before
anyone I knew was even making terpenes. I guess the first time I really saw terpenes and the modulating effects of them was through Skunkman Sam, who showed the pure terpenes and had cannabinoids and pure THCs, and he could literally show you how taking a pure THC and simply adding a terpene or even two, which is very simplistic compared to a cannabinoid profile, being modulated by a terpene profile. But after that, it was Kay who really mentioned and got me on the line of the talking about terpenes and wanting to extract them. And he always said to me that you have to be careful that you're not left with an artifact, that you want to be left with the true, that true molecule, and not the artifact, which is more like a shadow of the original molecule, like Jeff was mentioning. So that's definitely the trick, is to get these terpenes extracted, potentially in their pure profile, but then eventually being able to fraction and split them into pure terpenes. Then you could actually produce profiles that you knew existed by simply measuring them in different strains, and even measuring them at different times in their life cycle, because for all we know, the terpenes are having just...
What is a profile?
What's that, Mike?
So what is exactly a profile? Because we've looked at, as plants mature at different weeks, they're actually going to have a crescendo of different phytocannabinoids and terpenes that are excreted at different amounts at different weeks.
Yes.
If we actually get down on a want to actually express, say, for example, a CBG ratio, some of the CBG growers are going to harvest their plants a little bit earlier, because that's when they find that profile is specifically expressed.
Exactly, and that's exactly what a profile is. It's the result of what you get after you harvest and process. And there's so many profiles available within one strain during its life cycle, even from the time that it's a seedling.
So we can presumably get multiple profiles from the same cultivar just by harvesting it, drying it, or processing it differently.
Absolutely.
And even like just growing two flowers, you may have two flowers that you can manipulate the environment to either express more limonene or other type of terpenoid profiles, whether it's by varying the temperatures, varying the light spectrums, varying the enzymatic processes that are going on within the plant surface, both as well as in the root zone.
Sure.
So,
all variables.
So and that's the interesting part about it, because as we've pheno-hinted different cultivars, we've actually been able to see, okay, when we germinate X number of seeds, we're going to have to be able to differentiate for the specific profiles that we're looking for. And those profiles are going to even slightly change depending on the environmental factors. So the interesting part about it, I think that there are going to be profiles that are standardized. Okay, we know that this group of 3 to 5 terpenes plus a dozen other sesquiterpenes or micro amounts of terpenes are nice. What's awesome is as our methodology, our lab tests, both using the NMR and the HPLCs, GCs, etc., we'll be able to actually better understand both how we can utilize specific profiles for treatment, but actually potentially manipulate the cultivation of specific cultivars for the production of unique phytocannabinoid and terpenoid ratios. And I think that's going to be where we'll actually be able to start developing, okay, what strains grow best under the equatorial sunlight, because that, generally speaking, that's a bluer sunlight. Higher latitudinal generally is going to have a redder spectrum, and some research has shown that redder spectrums can actually drive enzymatic processing different ways. So we'll actually have bio strains that are developed in specific bioregions around the world, especially in Jamaica. Jamaica having those high mountain strains as well as the lowland equatorial strains, but both getting the high amounts of blue spectrum light. we'll actually be able to develop cultivars and entire lines of strains in Jamaica that are unique to Jamaica and only have a profile that can be reproduced in Jamaica. It's because it's going to be tremendously difficult to try and reproduce that in an indoor environment. So, anyways.
That was awesome drop, Mike. Thank you. I'm just reading the chat. I was definitely listening to all that you dropped there, and I agree 100%. When I say the profile, I don't really mean by any means that a strain is limited to a profile in its life cycle. I, like yourself, am understanding. It's why when people do little experiments and are like, oh, I did this experiment and I think this is the way it is, I'm always like, ooh, I think there was probably like 10,000 variables you potentially didn't take into account, not to mention all these other things that can't even be put into words. There's so many ways to change that profile. I learned it from taking macro photography, and I'll take a picture of a bud, and then you'll see people go, oh, that thing's ready, or that thing's. It's like, man, that was one trichome out of 1.5 trillion that are on this plant, and I could just put my lens anywhere during the life cycle of that plant at any time. Like even at 10 weeks, I could have put my macro lens on that plant and shot 4 different areas and had 4 different people be like, oh, that plant's done, that plant's not done, that one's getting close, based on a single trichome. And it's like, you have to go with the generalization of how many trichomes did you actually see? Like, did you look with a scope and see like a couple hundred or 1,000, or did you actually look at like tens of thousands, depending on from the bottom of the plant to the top, the middle? Trichomes are always in different stages throughout the entire life cycle of the plant. There's never a point where all the trichomes are fully finished growing and mature. There's just the end of the plant's life cycle. At least that's what I've seen.
Well, I mean, Tony totally just, I mean, when I asked him that question, he totally said how he manipulates the plant profile to produce the medicinal terpenes that, compared to somebody who grows the dry weed that doesn't get the same response from medical patients. We've been doing it all along. It's called the grower you know that gets results, and we just need to gather it and hone it and put it into a library and test it, and it'll be really easy.
Well, I think the new market that's kind of cool from that is if you're able to develop a medicinal blend of terpenes that is considered a nutrition or a food with no regulation, you could technically ship that to countries like the UK that's having conditions and problems, and they can combine that with their oil that they're having to try to accelerate and enhance their medicine when there's a scarcity. We take advantage of the fact that we're, Colorado's got both, but there's still places in the world that we can try to penetrate and access with medicine that way too.
Well, I mean, I've seen companies that have tried to sell, a recombination of, strains. I won't mention their name, but they put together, a blend of terpenes that they've, tested and simulated, but they don't, like what you'll see in the video that we shot, you can't really prove that the input components were clean. You just name them, and because you can bypass all those laws because they're food grade, nobody tests the side effects of inhalation. But I mean, we could literally put together packages that could be sold to other countries that can't produce cannabis in a, you could say, in the most therapeutic way, or even places that have to irradiate their cannabis for health concerns, could literally be given back a package internationally that would solve that issue for producing results versus producing irradiated cannabis, which doesn't really help anybody.
True that, true that. Well, we'll see what the future brings. We're kind of in it right now. I feel like we're just in the beginning of our future here, so keep the integrity strong and move forward. This is where science meets passion, and I like it. I think.
Well, and I think there's a lot of fascination with CBD being a highly medicinal phytocannabinoid that has reduced psychoactivity. While I think there's tons of medical benefit with THC in jurisdictions that only want to allow CBD. You know, the development of genetics that are CBD only, that could be cultivated as if they're cannabis or industrial hemp, and then using the resin, oleoresins extracted from the flowers. You know, it's a way that a lot of it becomes a lot more palatable to governments and legislatures that want to explore the medicinal benefits of cannabis and phytocannabinoids without having to worry about, you know, the psychoactivity related issues. You know, CBD really just opened the door to the fact that there's other phytocannabinoids within cannabis, but as we develop different lines, we'll start developing, you know, not only THC and CBD lines and having legislature just for those two phytocannabinoids, but including all of the phytocannabinoids into different medical regimes, whether they're homeopathic herbs, herbaceuticals, nutraceuticals, or eventually pharmaceuticals. You know, the rules and requirements for regulation for a nutraceutical are different than a pharmaceutical. But, you know, as we slowly develop the research, develop the understanding around cannabis, you know, there will be room for both the broad spectrum of everything from, you know, live plants all the way up to nutraceutically or pharmaceutically derived salts. You know, while I'm personally against most synthetically derived chemicals, it's one of those things that, you know, a lot of doctors want to be able to see milligram dosed ratios that they can prescribe in a pill on, you know, and be able to supervise over a multi-month patient trial. So being able to standardize, you know, better understand what strains work for specific conditions, creating standardized medicine that doctors can supervise is going to allow us to do patient trials. And, you know, it's one of those things, every time they write laws, you know, there's different research that's allowed, and even though a lot of the licensing is difficult, you know, we're certainly blessed to be able to do the research around the world as we can, where we can. So,
Awesome. It's got people in the chat going off on 100 different things, mostly about Monsanto buying Scott Farms, and some people talking about Mega Ill Pizza, General Hydroponics being picked up by Monsanto, or Fox Farms, a Monsanto subsidiary. Scary stuff for sure. It's going to be an interesting transition to see. I really hope that.
Well, it shows you that the capitalist market already sees the future that it's happening, and they want in on it.
And it's one of those things, like, I'm not going to go against the grain and hate on hydroponic growers or the growers that choose to use synthetic nutrients. You know, the proof is in the pudding, and, you know, there's a reason why organic grocery stores, organic flowers, and organic herbs exist. You know, it's when companies look at corporate social responsibility, they got to be able to take into account, you know, not only what is going to be good for our harvest this year, but how can we develop the ecosystem that's going to feed our plants for the next 10 years. And that's where you actually see a lot of the ecosystems, you know, that have been developed, whether organically or, you know, under scientific methodology. You know, they try and keep their equilibrium within their ecosystem. You know, just the ability to, you know, have an organic ecosystem is going to save people a lot of heartache, but it's not easy, obviously. A lot of people just want that, you know, one bottle that'll fix your plant when it starts going this way or that way, and so there's going to eventually be different gradients in the cannabis commodities market where, you know, growers that are producing top end strains, as well as extractors that are producing top end extractions, are going to be able to command a higher price. We've had a lot of issues both in Colorado and Washington now that they're requiring lab testing and people not passing lab testing for what they're spraying on their plants. And that's good. I mean, ultimately that produces safer products. So fortunately, it's
And safer growing techniques so people can know how to adjust, as well as learning their genetics that they're growing so that they can see an illness in the plant, be it root-borne, stomatic, etc., and learn how to actually heal it, naturally, as opposed to using chemical processes or chemicals that are accessible. You have to actually master each genetic. I had a bonsai teacher that told me it takes 7 years to master one tree, and that means to kill them. You'll kill the first 100. You know what I'm saying? These are just old growing techniques that still apply today.
Damn. Got to be careful with the bonsais, hey?
well, just like when we go to make our super soil mixes, different strains are going to have different nutrient demands. As we scale up our production, we'll actually be able to understand that, how we cultivate plants. Of course, when we make our super soil mix, we're going to have a set ratio, but as we're watching plants throughout their life cycle, we may need to amend into the specific strains, either more nitrogen, calcium, or potassium, etc. And it's one of those things that because each plant produces different profiles and have different enzymatic processes going on, we'll actually be able to scientifically study which plants need different nutrients, as well as developing different nutrient protocols for all the different plants. So we'll be able to have, okay, this greenhouse is primarily cushes, so they're getting this mix of organic teas, and that the other strains that like to grow on the more sativa side we can supplement with more blue spectrum lights and add more silica in their teas. So.
Well, you're in a lucky position that you get to be doing that. With everything that I've got organized, I have my little grow and my MMAR license, thanks to John Conroy and the team at the coalition fighting for our rights to grow. But I'm really most interested to get into a much more serious experience, like say in Jamaica, where we have many tons of herb to be processed. I think there's just going to be so much learning done so fast in that experience, in the processing and growing of large amounts and taking on new obstacles, in the sense of growing in the Caribbean is not going to be the same as growing anywhere in really America, or North America for that matter.
Yeah, humidity is a big factor there.
Sorry
You
about
need
that.
those editorials down there again.
Put me on mute for a second. Horatio, tell us about something amazing.
Let's see. I can talk about the stresses of the new demand for activated THC. It's surprising how many demographics have someone in relation that is dying and knows nothing about cannabis, but whether they're a fan of Hash Church or they've learned by through America, it seems there's a new epidemic and now a potential shortage of higher end rarefied products. So I guess the new amazing thing is that something as simple as distillation can clean up so many flaws. It's not a perfect system, and it can't automatically be trusted, but for strong, effective relief of so many things, it seems whatever the terpene balance that remains seems to be the first level of standardization by removing terpenes. But oh man, you're dripping it out there. But it's been really, really effective in people who don't want to get high, and it doesn't seem to go through the different spikes that I guess come with edibles. Nobody's greened out on me. Nobody seems to have the same disrupt that must come with plant material and all the other things that some forms of edibles come by. So this is, at least for us in our region, the new expansive future. To Etienne, it's old hat and helping people in California, but it seems that still people aren't focusing on the eating and the fact that even if you don't know anything, there's no testing, you can start with that pinprick and get something that's standardizable because you can tell by color its potency is there. It's not just a black mystery. So, Etienne, what would you have to say about what you've seen with the raw distilled products and how it's helped people in California?
Well, one, it's to get it consistent, which is always the fact, and is always grower dependent. You have very few ones that are very passionate at this level of, one, understanding, or two, that can execute it consistently. One of the things that we did, such as with edibles, is back in 2007, we realized as BPG, I could tell you that I want to see you with the edible that you're producing. I want to see proper labeling, professional labeling. I want to know dried weight per product before it's mixed, what is in the individual product. We realized if we as BPG said that, people would say, go fly a donkey. So we created the Medical Cannabis Safety Council, where we got all the players together and we pooled our intelligence, and we also then demanded universally that you have to have professional packaging. If you use 4 grams of dry weight before it's actually mixed into a product. And this is before, in 2008, when we started to actually bring in, we had more questions, and we basically didn't have any answers because the answers all lay at the University of Mississippi. So we had to find the experts around the world, or I had to reach out to, I can't say different names because I want to protect names, but we got experts from around the world, got them over here into the United States, and got them into local laboratories and started testing and getting testing solutions for standardized testing. And from that we were able to find CBD. We were able to find, and then started to test edibles. Now, we actually created our own edible line, and what we found out is, depending on how the batter is mixed, depending on how the cookie is laid out, I can test different areas of a cookie and get a different test ratio at a different laboratory, or even from the same laboratory. So it showed us inherently that even though we thought was such a simple product as a cookie, the concentration could be in a certain part of the actual cookie just by inadvertent ratio mixture, how it's plopped, how it's mixed, how it's laid, how it's cooked. And so that opened my eyes to the real science that really lay before us, just to produce a consistent, simple cookie that I could actually give to my patients, that they could consistently say, this is this product of this dry ratio, it is tested out to be this, it is gluten-free, it is sugar-free, it is in the different aspects that we learned as the different dietary restrictions that we have of patients. I can't make the same product for you recreationally as I do for a patient because of, again, you don't want to give them sugar, and then how is that infused, and what is that infused in, and then once it is actually, is it raw, is it being cooked, what is the actual temperature, for how long? Those all have, as we know, it has a different ratio. And on top of that, once you eat it, it turns to alexy-hydroxy metabolite in the liver itself. I can't do edibles myself because of when it actually, it just is too psychedelic for me. I get too high from it. But it also showed us that we had to educate ourselves so that we could learn the science, understand the science, but we had to pay for that. Fortunately, Debbie Goldsberry, myself, and Tim were very forward-thinking in the science process here in California, because we have no regulation. This is before laws change in Colorado. So we had to do our own self-regulation. So by creating the Medical Cannabis Safety Council, I was the chairman of the Contaminants Committee. So I actually researched every known contaminant on cannabis, and I circulated it to Rob Clark, Ed Rosenthal, Mel Frank, and other experts for their input, so that I now have every known contaminant that is ever been listed, and it's 10 pages long, just the list. And from that, we then wanted to look at the natural biological processes of dealing with these situations. If you've got root rot, if you've got systematic internal, cankers and such like that that grow inside the plant, all these different ways that, as it comes back around to what we're talking about growing naturally, is learning how to heal these plants by mastering each genetic. As I said, it takes about 7 years to master each tree, which means it takes a long time growing one genetic, but still, as you know, depending on when we harvest it, the time that we harvest it, how we grow it, we'll still have a completely different ratio across the board scientifically. When we actually take the actual science there, it's just a simple snapshot in time. That's all it is. It's a snapshot in time of that flower, of that ratio, and that's if you're only doing that flower. The other thing we learned when I was dealing with these real science is then we had to take a proper representative sample. So we would take, if we would usually get a pound in a, on average, a pound to a kilo in a turkey bag, we had to take a representative sample from 3 different areas of that pound, grind it up a consistent way. Then we used beakers and actually, used the alcohol, shook it for 10 seconds, and then it's actually strained and then sent to an UVH PLC and ran over 1,500 tests using that methodology with a laboratory that ended up in the end being too afraid to deal with cannabis because they were doing side testing for Novartis and Bayer, that their people were too afraid to risk the test, because as we know, it's in the U.S. it's $10,000 fine per test if you get caught, okay, and testing something illegal. So you have all these laboratories here in the United States that have really stepped over that line and have taken that risk. So we have I've worked with 5 different laboratories, because the first laboratory, as I said, worked with, they were great guys. They really knew what they were doing, but in the end, their investors had 5 UVH PLC machines. You know the cost of those machines. They were fearful that the government was going to come in and seize those machines. So we still have prohibition still fucking with us consistently while trying to get the basis of understanding of the simple science of what's in my fucking cookie, from the flower being tested so that we even know what's in there, much less we now have, as I wanted from that full list of 10 pages, to then learn what pesticides are people using on these things, so then we can start testing and getting the spectrum to actually test so that we can know what pesticides people are using. We had to go to a company in UC Davis that was a regular testing company for simple agriculture, and they have the actual ratios so that we could, at least 20 of them, of the most used pesticides, and then we were able to take that and take that to different labs so that they could get the spectral analysis, so that when we ran just a simple THC CBD, that we were able to get the actual, at least that top 20 scraping of, what pesticides are potentially screened or popping positive or not. And it's still progressing. There's still a lot of education, as you know, still has to continue and is ongoing, but it's still frustrating because we have to fund the science ourselves. We have to. I'm not a scientist. I had to learn the science. And I have a background in printmaking and art. I'm an artilleryman in the military. As a patient myself, I wanted to just know what was in the medicine I was providing my patients, because I provide patients thousands, every day, hundreds of patients come through my door. I have to know that I'm giving somebody who is sick something that is good for them, that is not going to give them an infection or some kind of respiratory infection that could lead to a worst case scenario. I have enough deaths on my conscience through a war over oil. I don't want any more over the cannabis that I provide to my people every single day, 7 days a week, for the past 15, almost 16 years. But we still don't have regulation in my state. We still test. Fortunately, we set standards, so we test everything that we have before it hits the floor. And we've found all kinds of problems along the way, from good vendors that thought they knew what they were doing, but, you know, things pop positive for pesticides, things pop positive for microbials that are way over the line, as well as still the inconsistency of testing with edibles. The testing community is still spotty. It is still not caught up to the reality of what we are dealing with every single day. Sorry to be so long-winded.
I appreciate you sharing your perspective. It's from a long time of experience. It's based on your own personal experience, and so it's always, to me, like something that's of more validity and should be listened to, when it wasn't just something that you read about, and it's your experience. And then having the access to the club like you do, that's where you really gain access to the patients. That's the information right there.
You know, I get the patients, and from that we have doctors who've come in and have done research. You know, Dr. Amanda Ryman did her alcohol research there. That was secondary research was done up there in Canada on cannabis and alcoholism. That was done out of my dispensary. And any type of data that we can gain, we were working with, you know, unfortunately, Dr. Todd McCrea, but he passed away. And it's just hard to also find doctors that are willing to put themselves on the line, because they have to step across a certain line, and they take flack from the American Medical Association. These doctors actually had to fight against John Ashcroft and had to sue them in court here in the United States just to be able to have that conversation with us. And so they're still stigmatized, you know. Dr. Leveque, who passed away, bless his soul, he was hounded up in Oregon and harassed by the medical board. He was absolutely just chastised time and time again, and he never gave up. He was dogged in his persistence because he knew this medicine helped people, and he'll be damned, just like me. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees, you know, waiting for the help to come to us. Just as I respect every single one of you for everything that you have done to help promote and educate people, because the biggest thing we're missing is information, because it is so much misinformation and lies and unheard smoking circles from back in the day when, you know, oh, we're burning brain cells when we smoke pot, which started curiosity in me. And then Jack Herrera, unfortunately, came through with Debbie Goldsberry back in '89 and sparked curiosity, as we've all found that curiosity that led us to cannabis. And then when we're in cannabis, then we started playing with it on a whole other level. We learned about the science, and Bubbleman, you created a whole other level of access for people that they never had before. Never had before. Would have never had access to, which opened the mind and the experience and access across the world to a whole other level of experience of hashish that they had only read about. I mean, come on, that gooey Afghan hash we'd only read about in the 60s, you know, that had disappeared by the time we were born, really.
Yeah.
And you're the real reason it's back. So I'm fortunate to, you know, be in such prestigious, you know, company of people who are always innovating to help people, to push, you know, cannabis, but also to help those along the way. Your ability to process hash has led to thousands of my patients benefiting from a clean, consistent product that they would have never gotten otherwise. You know, and they've been educated in a way that has really pushed hash making along. So, you know, much respect and thank you.
Well, give thanks, dude. I appreciate that, and it's a lot of people might not really understand or realize that where I came from before starting Fresh Headies and doing bubble bags was when I had moved out from Manitoba after doing the whole hemp thing and being integral. A small group of people got that license to grow hemp from our government, federal government, and that was the first time we had grown it in our province. Anyone had grown it in our province in over 73 years. So we got that first license, and we made that happen. And I had this revelation that I would move to British Columbia, and I had known Hillary Black. She used to work at Mark Emery's place at the time, and she ended up, she was also really dating Todd McCormick. She was going back and forth from staying at Todd's place, the very place that he got busted at, that Rene Bourget was seen watering the plants, and they wanted her to do a 10-year bit. All this insanity. Pre that, Hillary was like, should I go? Should I stay? I just moved to BC from Manitoba after doing the hemp thing, and she decided to stay and start the BC Compassion Club. Well, I was one of their first growers, and I did everything that I could to procure them safe, clean medicine, generally at a loss to myself. I brokered cannabis at the time, and it was quite easy to make money brokering cannabis in British Columbia in the 90s. And so I always used that to the advantage of the club. I just felt like, you just shouldn't really, you can't make profit off the club. So I always made a point on donating to the club, or at least, selling at a loss. And that's where I was coming from. It was only getting busted after someone drove a car through their front window to try to steal their safe, which had the medicine in it. The cops actually guarded the safe, and, it all got cleaned up and no charges to the club, as always. But then Hillary had said, hey, maybe you could take some of this medicine home and just store it there. So I was like, yeah, no problem. And driving home, I went through a roadblock, and they pulled it all out of my trunk. So it was like, that's how Fresh Headies really came to be. So Fresh Headies wasn't really a company I started with the thoughts on making profit as much as, again, kind of being I want to be able to help people. I'll never forget the first powerful letter from a customer, and it was in the 90s, 1999, and they wrote me and they said, my father, who's, this woman must have been in her 60s or 70s for that matter, but she said her father was in his 90s and that he was wasting away to nothing. He had wasting syndrome, and he was just getting really 85, 86 pounds or some ridiculous thing. And so she ended up buying some bubble bags and making bubble hash for him, and he smoked it in his little cob pipe. And then she wrote me this email, and she's like, and then he ate an entire chocolate cake that night. And so I was just like, she went on about how, to most that might just sound real funny. And it really kind of got me thinking about, people that know me will have heard me say this spiel before, which is all the negative aspects, the stereotypes that they've tried to create about cannabis, or medicinal aspects of cannabis that they've inverted into a negative thing. And so, relief of ocular pressure to save a glaucoma patient's eyesight, that's puffy red eyes. The munchies is what this woman was expressing, but the munchies isn't so laughable when it's saving, someone's life, or at least increasing the quality of their life to let them die maybe a better death than wasting away. So I just thought it was a really powerful story, and from that day on, Bubble Bags has always given a 20% medical discount on all of our hash making products, because for me it's definitely it's a driving force. A driving force. I sure respect the recreational aspect of it too. Tony destroyed himself. He's still dabbing terps.
Yeah, we're going deep over here. We actually were going pretty deep. We were going pretty deep.
I like that.
How deep are you going, and what are you going with?
We were. We started dabbing the terps, and we dabbed the terps again, and then we dabbed the terp rosin, which you could still see is really stable. And then we had some banner go around, and then there's some other funky stuff. What's this called?
This is Bubba and Monster Cookies.
Bubba and Monster Cookies. But we were talking about capturing terpenes off of hash water and stuff like that. And I was explaining how we could do it and what we were doing. Trying to make an all-in-one machine that was able to do the different polarity pulls using subcritical CO2 and water and terpene isolation. What it would take to make something like that. That's what we were talking about.
Would you use a high pH water?
I was just explaining how the subcritical CO2 for this was working and how it utilizes like pressures at 800 degrees. And it goes from liquid to gas, and most people when it's coming out of their CO2 machines, it's foam, and they have to winterize that with some kind of ethanol or alcohol paste and then extract it with the rotary. But in this process, this was coming out without the foam in its very fluid consistency. But the terpenes that were pulled off of it, because the machine we're getting to pull off terpenes too, the terpenes that were pulled off of it maybe are lacking the flavor and taste that you would get from the water-soluble terpenes in the hash washes. So if you take that water and you washed a really good resin and plant material that's very floral and it tastes really well and tastes really good, we were just talking about the difference in the polarity effects on terps and where we thought the flavor and taste were actually located. And so we were just talking about it being water-based. What's your thoughts, Horatio?
Well, I mean, first we get into that nervous position where it's like, well, what can I say versus what am I thinking towards the future? But I guess that is a good question. It leads to another question. When you're saying that the CO2 lack, the terps that you pull lack, does that mean that this general statement that CO2's ability to extract terpenes themselves isn't complete enough to, you still have plant material with valuables left over?
I think the terpenes and the flavor, the flavonoids, those flavors and those tastes are different than maybe the smells. Like terpenes are terpenes, so maybe what's happening is there still is a separation in there between the flavor and the actual terpene.
Well, the first test would be to put a drop on your tongue instead of vaporizing it. That way you don't have the heat degradation, and then you'll see what you taste.
That's a good one.
Find out. I know the answer, but go for it.
That makes a lot of sense, though.
Isn't it odd that our brains go to dabbing it first before like tasting it?
It tastes like it smells, but it's
not derived from CO2.
No, that's not derived from CO2 though. But I'm just saying, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. So now you've got to because I mean, Jeff, have you ever tried tasting your CO2 terpene fraction?
Yeah, I've definitely tasted the CO2 terpene fraction, and you know, like Tony was saying, man, if you're down there in the 800 psi range, you're going to get mostly terpenes. You're going to get just a little bit of cannabinoids, not very much. And I think the reason why people are doing the supercritical extraction rather than the subcritical extraction is because the target for most people is the cannabinoids. They don't really care too much about the terpenes. And so you can get a ton of cannabinoids, but you get all these waxes and everything else that you have to winterize. And I've had very, very similar extractions to what Tony was just showing there. We called it the terp soup. And it was Analytical 360 tested it at 43% terpenes, but only 30% cannabinoids. So it was like 30% THC. And so it's kind of an interesting way to go about it. What I would say, though, is that CO2 is just like any other solvent. You know, it has a certain polarity that is going to extract certain things. And that polarity shifts depending on what your pressure is. So, you know, when you're down in that 800 psi range, not getting many of the cannabinoids to dissolve into the CO2, but you're getting a lot more terpenes. You know, CO2 is very, very interesting. I think that that is definitely, you know, you look at the flavor market for foods, you know, a lot of the high quality food flavorings, which are, you know, essentially the terpenes of those foods, are extracted with subcritical CO2 to get those really fine flavors. So I think, you know, there's a lot more work to be done for sure in that, but you know, the terpenes are still not exactly the same as they are in the plant. You're not gonna, you know, there's certain polar terpenes and non-polar terpenes in the plant, and you're only going to get you know, more skewed towards that non-polar terpene from any of the solvents that we're using to extract cannabinoids. So you know, water definitely is a force that pulls terpenes out, and when you do a CO2 extraction, the CO2 bonds right with the water, and so anything that's water soluble is being pulled over in that as well. You'll get these fractions where you've got you know, the terpenes that aren't water soluble floating on top of the water and water soluble terpenes. So it's kind of, you know, once you start splitting them out of the plant, they really want to separate. So, yeah.
Thanks, Jeff. I actually meant to ask both you and Mike information in regards to your CO2 machines. I have a friend out east who wants to pick one up, and money's not really an option. He just wants to get some good access to information before he jumps in.
Well, yeah, hit him up and send over my contact info to him, and I would be happy to chat with him about it. You know, what we utilize is a Eden Labs machine, essentially. It's an Apex with a Eden Labs retrofit on it. So it's a liquid pump instead of a gas booster pump. There's many different ways to go about it, and it seems that, you know, the liquid pump is definitely the best for high efficiency of extraction. Although you're going to be having a lot more waxes that are coming over utilizing that sort of a system, where the gas booster, I've been able to run the system at a much lower PSI and not have difficulty with that. You know, with a liquid system, you have to have your separators about 800 PSI, or the liquid CO2 tries to become a vapor. And so if your goal is to just be pumping liquid CO2 from that separation side over into the extractor, you don't really have much of a difference in pressure to be able to have the action of the CO2 going into a gas to separate the product, and then be able to recondense into that liquid and carry over. So, you know, gas booster technology is definitely interesting. Apex has gas boosters, but there's lots of good companies out there on the market. There's a new company out of Portland called Fire, and definitely interested. Going to go down there and see what they have going on. They've got new automated systems where it's, you know, you set the pressure, you set the temperature, and everything just remains constant. It's you know, computer controlled, so it'll overshoot and undershoot just at the right amount to keep a stable extraction rate. So where, you know, the Eden Labs machines, they're great workhorses if you're going to be making vape pens. That's definitely the top yielder on the market that I have seen personally so far.
Awesome, dude. Thank you very much. I'm pretty sure I have you in my phone, so I'll just, I'll get him some contact info for you. Or I'll get it through you from Facebook. I'll get more contact info for you. It's always good to help people, get them sorted out. Well, it's been about 4 hours of hash churching. I think I'm going to have one more beautiful rip. Join you all for a nice rip out the egg. Thanks everyone for coming in and sharing information. Mike, I was just mentioning how I was wanting to hook you up with a friend that I have out east that's interested in a CO2 machine, and Jeff as well offered to help him out.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you can run CO2. What's nice is you can somewhat play with the polarity. In the modified tanks, you can also run co-solvents as well. So you can use the CO2 either as a propellant or as the actual solvent.
So what's the max PSI on those machines, like 2,000?
There's machines that go up to 2,000, there's machines that go up to 5.
Wow.
Most what we call the atom gens are gonna be the gas driven pumps, and those are gonna be sitting at around 1,100 to 1,500. The newer gens will go up to a little bit over 2,000 psi, and then they're even the ones that are specifically designed for the nutraceuticals can go up to 5. Because then you can actually use the supercritical phases to fractionally distillate.
Very cool.
Yeah. There's a bunch of different ways you can run it. There you go.
Well, I'm going to take off, guys. It was a great hash church. I do appreciate your time. Hopefully we'll see you guys both all back here next week with some more people. And, if you guys can find some topics to speak about throughout the week, things that happen, discoveries, let us know. We'll all meet back here next Sunday. And thanks, everyone, for watching. There was 600 or 700 people watching at one point. We got just over 500 now. And we will see you next week, everybody. Peace out.
Yeah. Peace out.